I'm hitting that live button. The live button has been hitting. I'm not sure if that's a word, but we're probably live already. Welcome everyone. This is On Just Restart. I am joined by my friend and co-host Brandon, and tonight we're going to be talking about Nintendo. How'd you know? Because we talk about Nintendo every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Usually about 9:03 because I procrastinate.
Like to be like, fashionably late.
Well, it's one of those things where I think I have everything ready, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna be good to go. We're gonna do it, and then it's 8:58, and I'm like, oh, okay, I just have to turn on OBS. That's fine. Oh, there's all these things that should close out. Okay. Oh, the preview's not showing. Oh, let me refresh. Oh, wait, my earphones aren't on. Oh, wait, I forgot to close the door. Oh, wait. And then before I know it, it's 9:03, and now we're live. But anyways, we are here almost on time, and the general topics for the evening are discussing our hopes for a Nintendo Direct. When will this Nintendo Direct happen? Could it be this week? Could it be sometime in January? Will it more likely be in February or beyond? Well, we're just talking about our hopes today. And maybe we'll put in a little bit of reason there.
Hopes and dreams.
Hopes and dreams is the topic of the evening. We're also, and on that note of hopes and dreams, we're going to be talking about a rumor for a Zelda movie being made by Illumination, the same studio that is making the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Do I believe this rumor? Find out by watching the rest of the podcast. We're also going to be talking about a story that I put a video out on this weekend, but the news is coming from Doc Trey. His video is linked in my video, but basically there was something discovered that may be alluding to Metroid Prime 4 being near the end of completion, and also Retro Studios getting started with their next big AAA project. And we're also going to touch on Fire Emblem Engage, because this game is coming out in 11 days, and it's looking pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. How about you, Brandon?
Wait, you cut out for a second. What did you ask?
Did I cut out? I'm sorry. I apologize. Let me rephrase there. We're also going to be talking about Fire Emblem Engage. It is releasing in 11 days, I think. Yes. 9 minus 20 would be 11. And
yes,
the 20th of January is when Fire Emblem Engage is coming out. And I'm reasonably excited for it. Previews have been coming out. We even saw a tech analysis from Digital Foundry. The game is looking and running way better than Three Houses. And yeah, it's looking rather promising. So I think we'll probably talk a little bit about that today as well. And I just sort of shot a question at you if you're excited for Fire Emblem Engage. I wasn't expecting a long diatribe or monologue. Just, yes, no, nay, yay,
I'm fairly excited.
way,
I'd say, not super excited. I'm not, pumped for this game, but I might pick it up day one. Still waiting to see, reviews on, how the overall story is. Because that's the only thing I'm kind of if it's good, if it's well told, and then like it usually is, I'll pick it up. I might buy it day one. I might wait a little bit because I'm thinking because I just beat Xenoblade 3.
I'm listening.
And I'm thinking I'm probably gonna buy Kirby, the new one that came out last year.
You should.
Forgotten Land is the name.
Don't forget about it, but yes.
Yeah. So I'll probably pick that up first. But I might beat that before Fire Emblem comes out, because I'll probably pick it up soon, but I'm not sure. We'll see.
I'm going to pick up Engage. I'm very, very excited for this game. I think I'm going to like it more than Three Houses. And I really enjoyed Three Houses. When I think back to my experiences of the different games I played in 2019, Three Houses came at a time for me that I would call a bit of a dark period. I've had many dark periods in my life, as I'm sure many of you as well, and I needed an escape at the time, and Three Houses was that escape for me. It was a wonderful story. I chose the Edelgard route, and it was a fun time. Edelgard to me is an angel, but apparently everyone else, she's the devil. Go figure. That happens when there's 4 different storylines in the game that you can choose from. So I only experienced one. I put about 100 hours into that one storyline, and it never came back. So part of that, you know, I enjoyed my experience, but because, to your point, Brand, the points you've made in the past, the whole monastery element, while I dug it, I think having to go through that again just to experience the second, like, other pieces of the story is a little bit much for me. So that's why I haven't done it. But then you look at Engage, they're kind of simplifying things. It doesn't have branching paths anymore. It's like one linear story. But you will have the opportunity to get to see every character's arc. So for me, it feels a little bit more digestible. The performance is leagues better. The resolution is leagues better. The art direction, you could argue, is leagues better. But that is definitely subjective. But it's overall looking a lot better. Yeah, for sure. And they're bringing back the triangle system.
Did they? They're bringing back the triangle system?
Yes.
Was that gone in Three Houses?
It was more of a subtle thing. It's more on the forefront now. Yeah.
I guess I didn't really know what the difference is. Can you explain?
So, you know how, like, there's this element of rock, paper, scissors?
Mm-hmm.
So you have the sword, axe, and lance that function as a rock, paper, scissors mechanic. One beats the other. And that wasn't active with the primary battles. I don't even remember how. I know that it was somehow still in Three Houses, but I don't remember exactly how it was. But it's something that wasn't really prevalent, and it's something that's being brought back. I remember more fondly because I used to play the Game Boy Advance games, and that's what was like, hey, if you don't have the right matchup, you're gonna be at a disadvantage, right? But now it's
Awakening.
Yeah. But now it's even more important because when you do have the advantage, you have a break mechanic where you actually break the opponent and they're stunned, so they can't counterattack. But on the flip side, if they have the advantage on you, you can't counterattack and they can run a train on you. So your positioning is also really important.
They just doubled down on it.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, we'll touch on a little bit more about Fire Emblem Engage later into the evening as well. We are gonna bring in a little over an hour at 10:15 Eastern. We're gonna bring in Sammy, one of our YouTube members, or Patreon member. It's a combo, right? So there are Patreon members or YouTube members, but it's basically the same membership program, just depending on which platform you pick. And there's a number of different little benefits you have, like being credited in videos and stuff, or you can get into a little bit of a segment on the podcast. So at 10:15, we're gonna bring him on through Discord, and we're gonna chat with him about both Fire Emblem and Zelda. So we'll be getting to that, but let's get to the chat, see how people are doing, and then let's go through the topics. Fair?
Sounds good.
Let's go. All right, cool. So actually, I got a super chat here from Taker610. Thank you very much, Taker. Taker says, Andres, your E3 2019 Zelda trailer reaction is still one of the best videos on YouTube. Looking back at that trailer was sick. Now only 4 months to go. I lost my voice that day. That was a day. I remember that day.
That was wild.
I lost my voice hardcore. You and I were just screaming. I'm pretty sure you were just dropping F-bombs left and right, and you could hear it in my reaction. It was just insane.
Swearing a ton.
But the thing is, we were already recovering. We were trying to recover because we thought we already got the Megaton announcement when they announced Banjo for Smash Brothers seconds beforehand. And they're like, oh, no, there's one more thing. And yeah, they just blew our minds with that trailer. That, in hindsight, was way too soon. Way too soon. Yeah, like, when I think about it, I was where I was at the time, like, in terms of speculation, I was like, yeah, we're years away from next Zelda. I'm not even gonna, like, think about it for now.
Yeah, none of us were even thinking about it. It just came out of left field.
Yeah, we didn't need
to. Oh, it's a sequel. That's why they're showing it so soon. It's gonna be quick.
Famous last thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
That just thinking on it is actually a little frustrating because we weren't expecting anything, and then they gave us expectation. We did not need to know. They could have just been quiet for another 2 years, and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
No.
There's no way they
No.
meant for that to happen when they released that trailer in 2019. There's no way they thought, we're launching this game in 2023, baby. There's no way.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, obviously not, because they were going to launch it last year. But I don't even think 2022. I think they were thinking earlier than that. They had to have.
2022, I still think would be too late. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
strange how that happened. Guys, just let me know if everything's looking and sounding okay. Last podcast, I noticed that our audio levels were a little off, Brandon.
No.
So just let me know if Brandon and I sound about the same. If not, tell me who sounds louder, and I will try to adjust that. But yeah, let's go back to the chat here. I saw Thomas Owen there earlier. Happy New Year to you as well. Hopefully you're seeing me say Happy New Year. Mohammed, when is the next 2D Zelda coming out?
Ooh. Great question. I would love a new 2D Zelda. In fact, in between buying Kirby, I've been thinking about, but I haven't had time, going and playing, because I have Nintendo Switch Online, and go back and play some older classic 2D Zeldas. But a new 2D Zelda would be awesome. But that's not good. Definitely not this year. I almost said next year, but it's this year now. Definitely not this year.
No.
Probably not next year either.
Well, like
But that's just based off of nothing. Honestly, it's hard to say. It's been so long.
It is tough. If we look at the Link's Awakening remake as a 2D Zelda,
a new 2D Zelda.
I mean, it had an entirely, like, it was a remake. It wasn't just like a remaster. So like the development,
it had some gameplay upgrades that made it feel a lot more modern.
The development effort was pretty much of a 2D Zelda, like a brand new 2D Zelda almost.
It still did feel very much like a Game Boy game.
I mean, because they were modeling after that. Yeah, like it did.
Like the puzzles were very, very simple in the end, and you could tell that it was like early Game Boy stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying, like, I guess the point I'm trying to make is Breath of the Wild came out March 2017. Link's Awakening remake came out less than 2.5 years later. So, 2 years plus a few months. So
2025, baby, that's when we're seeing it.
Yeah, I think that's probably a semi-reasonable expectation. Like summer to early fall, I could see the next 2D Zelda coming out. Like that seems fairly believable to me, because Tears of the Kingdom is probably gonna have DLC, and while the game is coming out this May, and there's definitely room for a lot of that DLC to come out in the second half of the year, there's a decent chance that some of that DLC trickles in to the next year, and it's a major Zelda game. They're probably gonna want to space things out somewhat, so I feel like most likely the next 2D. I mean, maybe holiday 2024 is possible, because it's been such a long time.
A remake or something.
Well, I mean, the thing is, what if the 2D Zelda game has been in development for a long time already, and it's just
fair. I mean, Zelda was supposed to come out this last year.
It doesn't take them that long to make 2D Zelda. So, I don't know who would be working on it per se. There's a few different options there, but like I could see them do it. Like the last game that Grezzo came out with was what, Miitopia?
I guess I don't keep up with them super closely.
I'm gonna double check that. And Miitopia came out last year, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So Miitopia came out, I want to say like May or June of 2021. So it's been out. It's been almost about a year and a half since then. So did
Grezzo make Link's Awakening?
They did. That was 2019. So, I mean, if we go by just like their rate of releases, we're kind of due for something for them this year. So if they're the team that's handling the next Zelda after Tears of the Kingdom, and obviously it'd be something smaller, then 2024 isn't out of the question, because while Nintendo may have skipped 2021 I mean 2022, because we've had a Zelda game every year, but 2022. I don't think all of a sudden Nintendo's going to stop having regular Zeldas. I think that's just kind of like the exception because of Tears of the Kingdom being right around the corner. And it's such a big Zelda. So I feel like we'll probably get something Zelda in 2024. So, I don't know. Maybe a 2D Zelda isn't a total stretch. And if it is a remake, to your point, Brandon, as Grezzo is popular for doing, like maybe we get a Minish Cap remake that's in the vein of Link's Awakening, or the Oracle games, one or the other. I'll take either.
I would prefer Minish Cap, but at the same time, the Oracle games are much like lesser known. They're like the second black sheep of the series.
They're all of them were initially developed by Capcom, so
yeah.
I could see it. I could see a 2024
Minish
release.
Cap's definitely the better game, though.
If it's a remake from Grezzo, I could see that in 2024. If it's a new thing, I think 2025 at the earliest. What we get in between Tears of the Kingdom, I mean, maybe it's just DLC that there's like a significant DLC that comes out early next year.
We finally get Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, maybe.
Yeah, actually, here's another interesting thought for. Yeah, I mean, that could happen. But another interesting thought that occurs to me is that since Nintendo's had the opportunity over the last half decade that Tears of the Kingdom has been in development to get a better understanding of how people prefer to have their DLC, I wouldn't be surprised if Tears of the Kingdom has an expansion, and that expansion is actually an expansion and not what we got for Breath of the Wild's DLC, which I was happy I got it. But when you think about what we get for other games, like Sunbreak in Monster Hunter Rise, or Torn of the Golden Country for Xenoblade 2, like, it's definitely pales by comparison. Like, it's not a new adventure. Yeah. They just remixed some stuff and added a dungeon in there. Like, so I think that early next year we could be looking at like a significant story campaign expansion in Tears of the Kingdom. So,
maybe
with that in mind, if that's what happens, then I could see Nintendo not having another Zelda release because of that. And then, so yeah, basically, what I'm saying is that 2025 is probably the best bet for the next Zelda thing. And it might not be 2D Zelda. It could be a Twilight Princess or a Wind Waker. But if I had to guess, I see Nintendo torches us and gives us a 2D Zelda first. And then Twilight Princess and Wind Waker come out when we all have children, or if you already have children, when you have your next children, or when their children have children. So
grandchildren's
long time from now, years. I don't know. That's a tough call for Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. We'll see on that, but yeah. All right, where is the chat? I've lost you. Okay. Oh, I see you got another super chat here. Let me get to that. Samuel A., thank you very much for the super chat, buddy. Since we're now 4 months from release of Tears of the Kingdom, it's extremely odd that Nintendo's keeping quiet. Why do you think they haven't had any blowout? Because they're trying to torture us. They want...
Yeah, they hate us.
Yeah. Go on.
They delayed Zelda on purpose, and they just want to punish us.
I agree.
It was ready last year, and they were like, you know what? We always delay Zelda. They're used to it. In fact, they want it. They like it. And so they delete it.
Yeah.
But no, probably because they want to wait for a Direct, I'd imagine.
Nintendo has a plan.
Like a place to show it.
We're still really early into the year. It's only January 9th. But I could see... I think Nintendo just has a special plan for Zelda. Now, what that plan is, that may vary, right? Like, there's a speculation, oh, what if they're saving it for new hardware? Maybe. Or maybe they just want to really market Zelda in a very specific kind of way that's going to be like this massive blowout campaign. And they're not going to start that until... whenever they start that, be it tomorrow or next month, I don't know. But, you know.
Who knows?
Well, I don't. Or do
Somebody
I?
Probably.
No, I don't know. I don't know. Hold on. Let me let in Ruby. Yeah. I think they have a plan, and I think once we see their plan, it will be apparent why they waited. It could be tied into their next generation. Not saying that they're releasing new hardware with Zelda, but it may be the case that they want to sort of space things out in terms of their messaging for their different products leading up to that announcement, whenever that does happen. And that it could be as simple as that. So it's not even so much that Tears of the Kingdom is being saved for new hardware per se, but they may want to kind of keep the conversation about Nintendo relevant, and they're spacing things out. Maybe the reason why... okay, thanks. Alright, Kat. Alright, great. Yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. So, it may be the case that, like, the reason Tears of the Kingdom is coming out in May is because they want to keep the hype going, right? So the Mario movie comes out in April, that's a banger. Tears of the Kingdom comes out in May, that's a banger. Then June comes around, that's E3 Direct, that's a banger. And and then that's when they have, and then, you know, there'll be different games coming out throughout the year. And it's just kind of like, they want to build up momentum. And I think it could be, I think it is about, in part, their next generation. Not saying that Tears of the Kingdom is launching alongside their next generation, but to have that conversation about Nintendo, maybe. And the DLC for Tears of the Kingdom, even if there's not a Tears of the Kingdom simultaneous release with new hardware, I feel like maybe the expansion to Tears of the Kingdom that I was just talking about, if it's something significant, maybe that's what they use to kind of push that out there. Like that, there's also that conversation that we could have. Like maybe that's when they have like a 4K update for the game or something. Edition. Yeah, something like a Game of the Year edition. Yeah, that's a good point. So, that could be why. I'm really hoping though that they start campaigning tomorrow. Why tomorrow? Oh,
tomorrow.
Probably not. Just because as soon as possible. That's basically my reason.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. That's basically it. But yeah, let me get back to the chat here. I saw some people pointing out my haircut. Thank you. Less hair, less problems.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. True.
Hello there, Paul Dunn. Hello there, Natsu, Charles Shadell, Joycey J, Having Hope, Nintendoge. Glad to see you here, Nintendoge. Wizard Ninja, hello. Celtic 14. Yes, people are also noting that you're still growing your hair, Brandon. That is true.
It shall never be cut. Maybe one day, I don't know. We'll see.
Taker saying that I took Onuma's haircut advice. Maybe. I mean, you know, I like having long hair, but it can get troublesome to manage daily. And I'm trying to be on camera more often too. And the problem with being on camera more often is that when my hair is a mess, I'm like, okay, guess I'm just going caveman today. But I'm trying to be semi-presentable. So one of the reasons why I have a shorter haircut is because of that. So it's a little bit easier to manage. And I'm also getting older.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. But it doesn't mean that long hair won't come back. Just depends on my mood.
I think it depends on how much you cut it.
Objectively, yes.
Yeah.
Objectively, yes. Well, okay. So there's another wrinkle to this. I didn't want to point it out. Well, maybe I did. I don't know. I got a haircut on Christmas Eve, and whoever I got a haircut with, because like my barber doesn't answer his phone, so I just kind of walk in and I'm like, all right, someone take care of me. And I wanted to get a haircut before on Christmas. I felt like I was already overdue for a haircut. So I go on Christmas Eve, and everyone's busy. It's Christmas Eve, whatever. And I do speak Spanish, but when I'm not prepared to speak Spanish, I don't speak it well. I have to try and my brain has to do a little bit of a shift, and I don't like talking that much when I'm sitting down to have a haircut too, even in English. So the guy who took me only spoke Spanish. And I was like, oh, okay, no. And at first, when I spoke in English, I could tell that he was like, oh no, I don't know what to do. And then I started speaking Spanish. He was like, oh, okay. But I didn't really like want to talk. So there, and like the things he said in Spanish, I wasn't sure quite what he was referring to. But basically, I explained to him that I just wanted like an even trim around. That's basically it. So he cut my hair very quickly. There were other people, and then he styled it in a very disgusting, horrible way. And I just kind of like, I was like, whatever. People do that with my hair. They just decide to style it when I don't tell them to do that, and I don't like it. I'm like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I know it looks horrible.
People like put cream and like
I don't like when people do that.
Hair during haircuts. I'm like, I did not tell you to do that. What are you doing?
No, I don't need you to style it. Like, it's fine. I just needed it to be cut. Thank you. So whatever, that happens, and I think it's a mess. I just kind of like whatever. I took a shower. And the next day, I was like, huh. The right side of my hair is like 2 inches longer. And because my hair is like wavy and messy, like it was not always easy to notice, but it was like uneven. So it was infuriating. And I'm fairly busy, so for me to get out and go have another haircut to fix it, it takes a while, and I can't call them to complain or be like, hey, look, you messed this up. Can you fix it for me? There's like no communication with these people. They're not even on Google Maps. There's no number. The one number I have of the person there, that I've never seen them again. Place? So, well, I just didn't. I found another barber, and they were way better, and my hair is even. Problem solved. I'm never going to them again. So
I don't know why you go somewhere that like doesn't have a phone number, doesn't pop up on Google Maps. That place shady as heck.
Yeah, and they also rushed my haircut and cut it completely uneven. Yeah, so that's probably why he wasn't asking for money. I was like, all right, so how do I pay you? Because he knew he screwed up, and he just wanted to get me out of there before I realized. I don't know. Wouldn't be the first time someone's botched my haircut. But whatever. This is not uneven and infuriating, and it's easier to manage. So there we go. Story over. Anyways. Back to the chat. DE Fox, the stream is lagging for you. From my perspective, things are running fine. It might be on your end. AB James, supposedly all the Zelda Amiibo are being re-released in stores in early February. Thoughts? Makes sense.
I heard about this.
Makes sense, yeah.
Well, I saw a headline on Twitter that said that they were restocking Amiibo in ahead of Zelda's release. I'd not look into it at all.
Look. Sorry. My cat saw this, and she was going for the tail. Hey. You want this?
Psst. My cat likes to try to eat my headphones.
Psst.
It's not
Ruby,
fun.
Look. Over here. No, this way. Come get it. Come get it. Go. It's over there. Go. Look, here's another one. Here's another one. This guy.
And another one.
Come. Go. She's like staring, like, what are you doing? Alright. Yeah, so I think the Amiibo, it's simple. It's an easy way to get merchandise out there that people are gonna buy with all the Zelda hype. There you go. Like, we know it's not really any like big sort of surprise. Tears of the Kingdom is coming out May 12th. We know this. So they're releasing Amiibo so people will buy them because there's more Zelda excitement right now. It's that simple. I don't think it means that we won't get a Tears of the Kingdom Amiibo, but I don't really think it means...
Sure it will.
I don't know.
I'd be surprised if we didn't.
Okay, well, let's think about it. They haven't announced any new Fire Emblem Engage Amiibo. I think at this point...
that's a tiny game in comparison.
In comparison, okay. Did we get any Scarlet and Violet Amiibo?
I don't know. Do we usually get Pokemon Amiibo, though?
No. Not
really. Why would you... That doesn't really factor.
What about Splatoon? Splatoon 3 had Amiibo, though, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it did. Did it?
I know Smash is still getting Amiibos.
Yeah. Yeah, there's Splatoon 3 amiibo. Ooh, there's a little small fry amiibo. That's pretty nice. Okay. Yeah. So you're right. I think there's probably a good chance we still get Tears of the Kingdom amiibo. April Mendy, has anyone talked about a future direct this February if there will be one? So
Yes.
there's going to be an Nintendo Direct. There will be a Nintendo Direct. Now, I don't know what Nintendo's plans are. I'm not acting like I have inside information on this. Okay, Brandon does.
I got the all-seeing eye.
I don't. But historically speaking, there's always a Direct around this time, and February is usually the time. So, yeah, most people expect there to be a February Direct. And when you take a look at the games we know about, we have Fire Emblem for January already, obviously. We have Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe in February. These are published Nintendo games, right? That's what we're talking about here. So when someone brings up another game like Octopath Traveler 2 or Hogwarts Legacy, those games are multi-platform games. They're not coming out on just the Switch or not being published by Nintendo. The only thing we have for March is Cereza, the Cereza and Lost Demon, Bayonetta Origins.
Yeah.
And while it may have a $60 price tag,
it's $60?
I don't know if that game
that is Bayonetta 3
would be enough to satisfy the March period. So I wouldn't be shocked if something else happens that month. And then April's entirely vacant, and then Tears of the Kingdom in May. So I believe well, I don't know. It's a tough call because you might argue that Tears of the Kingdom is such a big release that they'll have there's just going to be that gap there. But I think most likely something else will be announced, maybe smaller.
I'm sure there's going to be stuff announced because I think we're, the Direct in February. We'll get some probably February game. It depends on how late into the month it is. It's usually kind of later into the month, so maybe not any February games. So you might get
there could be an April game.
Games.
There could be like an April game. So
we have the Mario movie during that month,
right?
But I don't think that doesn't mean obviously there can't be games.
There could be a game. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be Mario related either. So
yeah, could be anything.
Anyways, point is that when you look at that slate, and then nothing after May 12th, there needs to be a Direct soon to make announcements for more products. And if there's going to be a game in April or maybe an additional game in March, then there absolutely has to be a Direct in February at the latest. And people have been speculating that maybe we even get a Direct in January, which doesn't really happen. But this could be a unique year. We are getting Tears of the Kingdom in May, and Nintendo has not been talking about it. It's seeming like, there's less and less time for them to kind of have this full-on marketing campaign for it. There are these rumors of the Metroid Prime remaster maybe getting announced soon. And then there's all this next generation talk. Like, how does that fit into their plan here? Like, there's all these different equations. Again, I'm not saying that there's a new system getting announced this month. But what if a system's getting announced, even if the system's getting announced early next year, they may want to start positioning their announcements earlier than later because they are gearing up for that big moment. So I have my eyes peeled for something even happening this month, but historically speaking, it's been February, so we'll see. Let's see here. Forrest Hoku, curious what some of your favorite Game Boy Advance games are. There are so many bangers from that handheld generation. Yeah.
I did not grow up with the Game Boy Advance. I grew up with the DS Lite, which could play Game Boy Advance games, but I did not own very many of them. So I've only really played like Minish Cap for the most part. Minish
Cap is one of my favorite Game Boy Advance games.
Great game.
Pokemon Fire Red, Leaf Green. I played Fire Red, I didn't play Leaf Green. I really loved that one. It came with it was the first Pokemon game that had wireless multiplayer. It came with an actual adapter. So there was no longer a physical link cable. You could plug in this little semicircular adapter to the top of your Game Boy Advance, and it would have a wireless signal with others who had that. And it came packaged in with Fire Red and Leaf Green. So there was actually multiplayer there. And they had the Versus Seeker in that, and then they had the Sevi Island. So I was really into Fire Red. I also loved Fire Emblem Sacred Stones. That was my first Fire Emblem game. I really enjoyed that. Advance. Well, actually, I got into Advance Wars first on the DS, and that was with Dual Strike. So that was not a Game Boy Advance game. Another reason why I'm excited
I played a
for
little bit of Advance Wars with my friend Pedro, but I never played it on my own.
yeah, it's why I'm kind of waiting for 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. Like I really want to play those games. But yeah, so Fire Emblem Sacred Stones was a really good one for me. Ooh, there was I didn't play it initially back in the day. But I think there's a couple different F-Zeros that came out for the Game Boy Advance. But I played I don't remember that. Was it Max Velocity? I have to Google this. I played it after that time. Yeah, that was F-Zero Max Velocity. I really enjoyed that. I love Metroid Fusion, but I also played Metroid Fusion after the heyday of the Game Boy Advance. But it is one of my favorite Advance games. Minish Cap, that I played back then, and that was epic. That was amazing.
My second favorite 2D Zelda.
I think it's my favorite 2D Zelda.
My favorite's Link Between Worlds.
Oh, that's not fair.
Oh.
Because it has 3D polling. It has 3D graphics.
It's the best.
It's very good. It's very good.
It's still a 2D Zelda game. It's top down.
It has the top down gameplay. Yeah. There's just something about the Minish Cap style that I really appreciate.
Oh yeah, the art style's amazing.
Yeah.
One of the best looking Game Boy Advance games.
And I have a lot of nostalgia for that one in particular, so I might even still say that Minish Cap is my favorite 2D Zelda, even with A Link Between Worlds in mind. But A Link Between Worlds has very fun gameplay. But I have not tried revisiting it though. So that's
I haven't either.
Yeah.
I played it once, I beat it 100%, and then I have not had the chance to play it again.
Yeah. There's a few Game Boy Advance games that I feel like should go back and play. The cool thing with Game Boy Advance games is they're basically like Super Nintendo games, so they're almost timeless. So you can kind of go back to them. Like as I noted, like I played Metroid Fusion years after Game Boy Advance was relevant. Loved it. There are other popular games from back then, like there's Castlevania, there's Mario and Luigi, and like there's a whole bunch of games that came out then. There was Metroid Zero Mission. I think they even remade some of the original 2D Mario games as well for Game Boy Advance. There's a lot of killer content on that platform. Yeah, it was insane. Let's see here. All right, so we gotta get to the topics soon. So I'm just gonna focus on a few ads here, and then we're gonna jump into the topics, and then we'll come back. AB James, supposedly okay, I got to that question earlier about the Amiibo. Going back and forth in chat here, I apologize. Guy you don't know. Hey there, hope you and Brandon both had a good day. My day was mediocre, but maybe tomorrow though. I'll use those good wishes for tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah. I just started playing Super Mario Galaxy 2 for the first time today. Oh, did you? Mario Galaxy 2. That's a good one.
I never actually played Mario Galaxy 2. I played 1. I've seen the playthrough of 2.
Yeah. Paco Salvador, stream in Espanol when I have to run away to Colombia from crime.
When I learn better Espanol. Mi habla poquito español.
Hablas un poquito de español, qué bueno. Yo no hablo mi español no es suficiente bueno para hacer videos en YouTube. So
I don't know what you said.
Yeah, what I said was that if you think yours may not be good, but trust me, mine was not great either. So yeah, I don't speak Spanish well enough to be a good content creator in Spanish. Paul Dunn, I would absolutely be ecstatic if they re-release a Zelda Amiibo. They are so expensive right now on eBay. That's actually an interesting point. Like, I didn't think about that. Like, just from a perspective of being able to get them, that's good. I have them. Although, I remember a few years back, my Princess Zelda Amiibo for Breath of the Wild got chewed up. So,
I got my Guardian Amiibo in the box. I got some of the 30th anniversary edition ones.
I just...
Yours is out of the box.
Out of the box. Hate me for it.
He's in the box.
Hate me for it. I love it, man. This amiibo is like the best amiibo because like you can do so much with the legs.
I will never take it out of the box.
I could even be like a G
It's not gonna happen.
and put it on the microphone, but that's probably not a good idea.
Maybe if one day if I like learn I get a diagnosis, it's like you're gonna die in a year. I'll be like, okay, now I'll open the Amiibos.
Or you sell them and go on a vacation.
Maybe.
It's a Red
Depending on how
Lobster
much
because
it's
you'll just
worth.
get a few $100 for them. You're not gonna get a lot.
No.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, maybe in 50 years when I'm old and dying.
LP. I feel like remakes of Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 and of Mario Galaxy 3 are inevitable, even if it's 30 years from now. A lot
Mario
can
Galaxy
happen in
3?
30 years. We'll come back
Yeah,
to this live stream,
okay.
check the chat replay, assuming YouTube doesn't delete them, and be like, oh, LP got it right. 30 years ago, he said that there would be a Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 remake and a new Galaxy 3. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't really want a Galaxy 3 that badly. Honestly, I kind of view the Galaxy series as not as bad, but I say bad. It's not as different, but I kind of view them as the same as like 3D World, where they're not real 3D games in the sense that they're not sandbox games like the other games in the 3D Mario series. And I just don't. I think the level design is good, but I just don't prefer it to a sandbox 3D Mario. Like, I don't want them to make Super Mario Galaxy 3. I want them to make like Odyssey 2. Like if they did it eventually, that'd be fine. But it'd be the same as if they went back, in my mind, and made like.
I do
Mario,
feel like there at some point could be a game that is kind of like a Galaxy 3, but I don't think they're going to call it Galaxy 3. I don't think that's going to happen. No. I mean, like, have they ever come out with a Super Mario 128?
No.
I honestly feel like I came up with a really good comparison there. Because for years, people have talked about Mario 128. It was a code name, a project at one point or another. It was a tech demo they used for the GameCube. And some people speculate that eventually became Mario Galaxy. I gotta double check that, so don't hold me to that. But point is, there's a lot of conversation for years about a Mario Galaxy 128. And there was never a true direct sequel to Mario 64. However, you could argue...
It's called Sunshine.
It's more like it's tangential.
It happens right after 64. It's literally the same exact characters.
Toadsworth wasn't in there.
I'm sure he was around somewhere.
Off camera.
I was just saying, it's like the same. Like that was right.
Sure,
after.
it could.
They even mentioned that it happened. Just like Mario 64 just happened. Like it has the biggest continuity of any of the Mario.
What I mean is that people want like explore the castle with the paintings again, kind of thing, right? That's never happened, and
yeah,
sort of though, because Mario Odyssey is like a spiritual successor to Mario 64, because there are some paintings we do go into. We do explore the castle a little bit. It's not to the same extent, but it is to some extent.
So many references in that world.
And, Mario Odyssey also has some Galaxy-like moments, too. So I guess the ultimate point I'm getting at here is decades removed from Mario 64, we still don't have a true sequel, or a straight sequel in the same vein of Mario 64 exactly. Like that I don't think that's going to happen. The same way I don't think we're going to get a Mario Galaxy 3. However, I do think the Galaxy series will be forever remembered. They will be looked upon fondly, and elements of those games may be used in future games and expanded upon. The same way Mario Odyssey expands on a lot of Mario 64 concepts, we may see a game in the future that continues to expand a lot of Galaxy concepts. I would argue that 3D Land, 3D World, and Mario Odyssey have already expanded on some of the Galaxy concepts. Not to say that we can't have a game that goes more in that direction. Because Rosalina, the Lumas, that whole space motif, that's kind of existed in various different like spin-off Mario games since the Galaxy games. It's a motif that it's kind of like now we have like a desert world, we have a lava world, and all that stuff. There is like that. There's that biome. There's like that space realm too that they always have material for. So the next game could have something like that. Heck, Mario Odyssey, you travel to the moon. What if in the next, what if there was a Mario Odyssey 2, which I also doubt, by the way, but hypothetically speaking, if there was, what if that went beyond the moon? Then there was star exploration. Then it is like a Galaxy 3, but it would be called Mario Odyssey 2, you know?
I would like a Galaxy 3 if it was like a sandbox game and not really like a Galaxy. I just don't. I mean, it'd be fine, but I'm just not sure if they're going to make another just like linear single player Mario game again.
I don't know. It's tough. Because the money's where the money's in the Mario Odyssey style. Like that's where it's at.
Yeah.
So, but like, well, let's entertain that idea briefly here. Mario Galaxy, right? Like, what if that was more open sandbox like Odyssey? Like, how would that look? Like, what would be Mario Galaxy? Like, imagine Mario Galaxy but open world. Like, how would that work?
Right. I'm imagining just kind of like Odyssey type of gameplay, just with like more gravity mechanics.
So, think about
like,
this for a moment.
I feel like
there was an interview when Mario Galaxy was coming out. Around that time, the time they were marketing it, at least, I believe it was with Shigeru Miyamoto, and they were talking about some of the mechanics within Mario Galaxy. And I'm paraphrasing here, so you know, take it with a grain of salt, but something to the effect of the worlds, they can all be round, and if you just scaled the size, they still take up the same amount of geometry. But they can get a lot bigger. So you can have a world that's like this and a world that's like this, and they're effectively the same. They've just been scaled up, and you could explore a lot more in that way. So imagine if they were to take the galaxy little planetoids and just scale them up, put more on them, and there's still that gravitational effect, but it's obviously with a bigger planet, it feels more like maybe walking in a normal world, but you can tell that you're walking on a smaller planet overall compared to, say, like the Earth, right? And there are a lot of those galaxy mechanics. There could be sling stars and things like that where you can fly to another planet or a moon where there is those gravity mechanics at hand or at play. Like, they could make a game like that. And it could be on a much bigger scale. Like, there is that potential. So that'd be fun. I don't think that's impossible. I just don't think it's going to be called Mario Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it'll be like the main focus of the gameplay either. It'll just be like an element.
I think there might be like a world where that's the case.
Could be a big world. Could be like a whole kingdom or something.
Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whatever they call it in the next game. But I'm not sure if they'll make another, because I think they'll make more like multiplayer focused linear Mario games, of course. But I don't know if they'll make another single player one.
Hard to say.
In the same like linearity that Galaxy has.
I don't know.
Which does work to its favor in some aspects with like the tight level design and such.
Yeah. So I see we have a decent amount of people in the live stream. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you leave a like, that'll help more people see the stream. It'd be awesome if we can get to over 100 concurrent viewers. We're at 93 right now, I see. Oh, we just jumped up to 99. It's pretty close. But, like, let's get us over 100. Like the stream. It's very helpful. But while people do that, let's talk about our hopes for a Nintendo Direct. So, Brandon, these are hopes, right? Like, maybe we'll try and keep them semi-grounded. Like, we're not going to say, hey, I want like, you know, Half-Life 6 and Resident Evil 9. But, you know, maybe you and I are on the same wavelength in terms of grounded somewhat, right? So we're just going to go talk about things that might happen that we'd like to see, but we're not like necessarily convinced is what's going to happen. So, Brandon, I'll let you go first. What do you hope to see in a Nintendo Direct in the not so distant future? That can include when we see that Direct.
You know, I might have to think about it. You might have to go first.
Okay, that's fine.
Because, like, I got Zelda, obviously, but I can still think up other ones.
Okay. So, I'll just tell you my first hope. I hope there is a Nintendo Direct ASAP. Like, as soon as possible.
Okay.
right? Like, I am hoping that there is a Nintendo Direct announced tomorrow. Why am I hoping there's a Nintendo Direct announced tomorrow? Because then I have an excuse to just live stream and talk about it instead of doing other lively responsibilities. So that's why. It's a selfish reason, but yes. But going beyond that, if there's a Direct in January, I think that comes with like the implications that Nintendo has like a bigger plan for the year. Because they typically do Directs in February. The last couple times we've had something in January were in 2018 we had a Direct Mini, and then in 2017 there wasn't a Direct, but it was actually the Nintendo Switch presentation itself, which is pretty big. Now, I'm not expecting a Direct Mini, and I'm not expecting an entire Nintendo Switch presentation, but I am expecting that when we do get it Direct, there's going to be like a huge Tears of the Kingdom blowout. And while it's an expectation, it's also something I hope we get too at the same time. It's what I want the most. And it'd be interesting to see that happen, obviously in January. And also what I really want, I this is a hope, and I don't believe it, right? But well, I don't know. There's like a little my hope in this has kind of decreased over time, but there's still like a small piece of me that's like, what if there is new hardware that launches alongside Tears of the Kingdom? Like, it's still
Maybe.
like, it's unlikely. No, I agree. I agree. Like, you and I are on the same page, Brandon. I don't expect it to happen at this point. I would predict otherwise. But how great would it be if Nintendo announced a more powerful Switch in a Direct, and it's launching alongside Tears of the Kingdom, so you can play a better looking, better performing version of the game on May? That's a pure hope.
Nah.
It's not even.
Nah, gonna happen. I won't entertain
It's all.
this.
These aren't predictions. These are hopes. These are hopes and wishes, Brandon.
Okay. I find it ungrounded.
It's not even grounded. It's in the stratosphere. Like, it's flying away.
It's flown away.
The gravity cannot hold it in. Okay.
Cannot be contained.
All right. Thank you for keeping me grounded, Brown. How dare I hope for new hardware? How dare I?
I do hope that they during the Direct announce a release date for Advance Wars.
Yes, that is an amazing hope. That is an amazing hope. Yeah, I agree. They should do that.
It could come out even like pretty soon if they wanted it to. Like, they could announce it for February or March, or depending on how early in February the Direct is, or if it's in January.
If we have a Direct in February or January, like, I think they could announce it and it could come out April.
Ooh, April could work.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Sometime early in the year, though. I don't think it's gonna be past before Breath of the Wild, probably. I think. I have a feeling that after Breath of the Wild, I don't know. There's a lot of predictions that after Breath of the Wild, it's gonna be slowed down, but I actually think it's going to speed up because we're having kind of like a slow early year, whereas last year we had like a very fast early year. Up until Breath of the Wild, but it's gonna be like slow, pretty much.
Tears of the Kingdom?
They announce stuff in the Tears of the Kingdom. Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Up until Tears of the Kingdom stuff. That's why you give me that look. Up until Tears of the Kingdom releases, it's gonna be slow.
There's actually several reasons.
It's actually gonna ramp up this year.
So I just want to make sure I understand correctly. You're saying that last year, the year started off strong and sort of tapered off.
Yeah.
And this year, you're saying that it's starting off slow, but it's going to pick up.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my gut feeling. Don't have a lot announced for early year.
Yeah, I'll say that. I think.
And unless I don't see this because, let me just say real quick. People are saying that after Tears of the Kingdom it's going to be really slow. It's already slow. So they're saying that there's the only big game that's going to come out is Tears of the Kingdom. There's going to be barely anything else. because it's already been slow. And if it's gonna be even slower after Tears of the Kingdom, what is coming out this
You know,
year?
sometimes what I don't like is when people just kind of, and you know, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm just saying, but I don't like it when people predict Nintendo's gonna be boring and lame. It's like, yeah, they're just not gonna have any games. Like, I get like
Nintendo.
trying to like kind of keep your expectations in check.
Yeah,
Like, I get that, but at the end of the day, Nintendo is an entertainment company. They are building products and software that we want. Their job is to entertain us with their games. So if you're predicting that they can't even do that, then you're basically predicting that they're not going to have a good business year. So, you know, I think they're going to do something. But, like, for example, you could argue, I know some people will argue that last year wasn't a good year for Nintendo, but I think it was a solid
Wasn't
year.
that bad.
No, I think it was a solid year. It was not the best year ever.
Kirby and Xenoblade and Splatoon.
Yeah, I enjoyed both Pokemon games.
2 Pokemon games.
Yeah. Bayonetta, which I still need to play, but there's that. There's a Sunbreak DLC for Monster Hunter, which I also still need to play.
There's a lot of stuff need to play from last year.
Sparks of Hope. That's another solid game. Like, there's been... Like, it was not a bad year.
There were games.
Yeah, for sure. So... I guess I'm still trying to wrap my head around, like, you're thinking that last year started off strong. And, okay, so January had Legends Arceus. That's pretty strong.
And Legends Arceus. It was also, like, other platforms as well. Like, the gaming in 2022 in general also might be influencing my opinion. Because it was strong from other companies early in the year and then, like, dead.
When did Legends Arceus come out? I know it was a January release, but was it, like, earlier in the year, January? Or was it, like, at the end of the month? I feel like it was probably
like
end of the month.
Early. Wasn't it, like, the 12th or something? I don't remember.
It actually came out later than Fire Emblem Engage this year.
28th?
Legends Arceus, yeah, came out 28th.
I knew it was like the
and Emblem's coming out 20th. So Emblem's coming out a week earlier this year. And I feel like for you, Fire Emblem Engage is a bigger deal than Legends Arceus.
No.
No? No?
No.
Legends Arceus.
I mean, I don't know. I was curious about Legends Arceus. Like, you mean me personally?
Yeah,
like,
for you.
Like
that's
more?
when I say for you, not for humanity. I said for you as in you, Brandon.
For me, I guess it's a
not you,
game,
humanity.
It's not that much, to be honest. Like, Fire Emblem is not a huge game series for me in general.
Take that back.
It's just barely, but like I played them.
You know what? I feel like Three Houses just ruined Fire Emblem for
2 or 3 hours and then sell back because they're such garbage games.
Maybe this is me unintentionally gaslighting a little bit, but weren't you more hyped for Fire Emblem Three Houses before it came out than I was? And then when we actually picked up the game, I fell in love with it, and you were like, it's okay. I don't think I'm gonna finish it. Like I feel like I remember thinking that you were gonna be more into it than I was.
Bored. I was tortured. It was worse than being bored. That game actively made me upset.
No.
I was hyped for it though.
Okay.
But that's probably why I'm not hyped for this one, because like my last experience with Fire Emblem was like not fun.
Anyway, I just bring up the date situation because from one perspective you could argue that Nintendo's starting off stronger because they have Engage. But Legends Arceus is a bigger seller than Fire Emblem by far. Like that's a no question.
I also don't have anything big like Kirby to back it up.
You're right. I agree. But what came out after Kirby that would match Tears of the Kingdom?
Oh, nothing. And that's what I'm saying. Like once Tears of the Kingdom drops, that's when it ramps up. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Until then, it's pretty slow.
Yeah. Okay. But anyways, in terms of direct hopes, you're hoping that we get Advance Wars announced, and I agree. I'm going to hope that we get Metroid Prime Remaster announced, finally. Yes, which I think will be big. Awesome. It'll be big for the speculation wars, because I think a lot of people don't believe in the Nate the Hates of the world, the Jeff Grubbs, the Emily Rogers. even though there's actually a long history of everything they've told us coming true, pretty much. It's just kind of like a waiting game. Because when I make the videos and people are like, oh, Nate the head on Reset Era, that's just some guy in some random forum. No, it's not. Right? Or people think Jeff Grubb is like a nobody. Like, just because of this Metroid Prime situation. So it's going to be interesting to see if this happens, because then people are like, oh, okay, Metroid Prime is legit. So then they'll be like, oh, okay, so maybe those people weren't full of it. Although I think some people will then argue, well, a broken clock is wrong twice a day, right? So if you continue to say the same thing forever, eventually you will be right. Half-Life 17 will happen, you know?
Half-Life 3, let's go,
yeah,
please.
But more importantly, I just really want to see, because the idea of this Metroid Prime remaster, it's not like a basic like texture upscaling. It's not like a Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD kind of like version. Like it's in the words of Jeff Grubb, a big boy remaster. And to me, when you have several years of development, and the initial story, according to what's his face, Imran Khan, was that Retro Studios actually had a prototype of a new engine running Metroid Prime. Nintendo saw this, they greenlit that project, and then shortly afterwards they went on to do. They were also told to do Metroid Prime 4. So they had like a new engine. Supposedly they had like a new engine running Metroid Prime. And it like impressed Nintendo. So Metroid Prime, like Metroid Prime 1. So that implication there is that if there's a big boy remaster, that this is a new version of Metroid Prime that's running on a modern day engine made by Retro Studios that's had a few years of being worked on. Not saying that was just like upscaled and retextured in 6 months. Like, it's had significant work done to it. So how cool is this game going to look? Like, and what changes are there going to be? Is there going to be new content, new gameplay additions? Are they going to add dual analog controls? Like, there's a lot of little things they can do that could change a lot, or there could be some big things. So if this story is true, which I have said repeatedly I believe is true, because I believe the sources, even though they haven't been right recently, simply because timing is always kind of tricky. I really want to see that. That's one of my hopes, that we finally see this, and I hope it's coming out soon, because I need to play it. I don't expect it before Zelda, though. I think it'll probably be like a late summer to early fall release.
Yeah, that'd be really hype.
Yeah.
I hope, we might see more on the story DLC for Xenoblade, but maybe it's a bit early. I forget exactly when that's supposed to be launching, because isn't it supposed to be like by the end of the year?
Yeah. It's a little bit, I think it's a little bit more spaced out.
So it might be early to see that, but I would hope we see more about the DLC for Xenoblade.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable expectation. To get another update on the DLC. Yeah.
Not sure if we'll see more on the story DLC.
I think we've gotten
part I'm hoping for
Wave 2 already. The thing is, for me, like, I've taken a bit of a break from Xenoblade 3, and I think I'll kind of come back to it once they show off, like, the actual story.
I'm not gonna buy the DLC until the story comes out, so.
Yeah, the other stuff doesn't, like, really.
I don't care. I bought it for Xenoblade 2, but only because I knew the story, and I didn't do any of the other stuff.
So, okay. Wave 3 is set to be released by April 30th. So, at the very least, guys, this is what I feel confident in saying, like 100%. There will be a Nintendo Direct before April 30th of 2023, and in said Direct, they will show off Wave 3 of the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 expansion pass, which is still not the original story scenario that they're working on. That's Wave 4, that's set to come out by the end of 2023. So, I think we'll see Wave 3, which probably won't excite you that much, because Wave 3 is just new kind of challenge battles and a new hero.
Oh, yeah. Do not care. Well, if the hero comes with like a new hero quest, then maybe.
The what? Oh yeah, hero
So there's
quest.
gonna be a new hero.
Well, isn't each hero a hero quest? Like it's not just.
Usually,
Yeah.
you gotta unlock them via hero quest. So, but
Yeah.
that doesn't specifically mean that the DLC can't just gift you a hero for some reason.
I haven't played it, but I want to say that the hero they added for Wave 2, there was actual quest involved. If anyone's played that, let me know in the chat. But I was under the impression that yes, that was what
I
happened.
would hope so.
Yeah, maybe it's something super significant, but it was something. All right, so I see a few things in the chat here I want to get to. J.R.R. Tolkien, how long has Grub been saying this Metroid Prime thing is happening? It's a good question. A few years.
I'm not sure exactly.
A few years.
Because it's morphed from the trilogy into this.
Yeah, it's changed. And I think as evidence has presented itself, the story has changed. Not so much that they're making it up. Ooh, okay, this is a good one. Spheromancer. So we can guess that Metroid Prime Remastered running on the Metroid Prime 4 engine. I want to say yes. I think that, according to the story, that's the implication. Now, an engine... Brandon could probably explain this a little bit better than I can, but like, just because something's running on the same engine doesn't mean it's going to look similar. Like, you can have two games running on the same engine, they can look entirely different. It's just like the underlying framework that allows them to accomplish different things. Right?
Yeah. You need a certain, feature set to your engine in order to use certain graphical features, or in order to, say, if you wanted to make an open world, you need an engine that can handle streaming and assets on the fly, or something like that. So in essence, the engine's like not only the framework, but it's also some instances like the toolkit as well. But I'm not a developer. I've only kind of messed around with game engines, so obviously I don't know everything about them. But yeah, they're kind of like the framework and the toolkit for your games. But you can create different things with those.
So, let's say we get this Metroid Prime remaster, right? And when we see the game, it's updated significantly. And the sort of things we start to see, like, there's a lot of, like, dynamic weather effects. Like, a lot of the things that were done in the initial Metroid Prime, a lot of that happens, but dynamically. Like, there's a lot of mist and fog and droplets. We see them on the visor, but maybe we even see them, like, on Samus's arm cannon. Like, we see the rain, like, wherever we can see rain, like, dripping down, we see that. We see, like, better, like, lighting and metallic textures. And when we look at some of the vegetation, it moves realistically. Like, there's all these different little things that are, like, demonstrations of, like, better physics and lighting effects and particle effects and weathering. Those things, would you say, because I don't know, I'm asking your opinion on this, like, would those things be an indicator of capabilities of the engine that we could then be like, oh, okay, maybe we could see some of this stuff, perhaps to a slightly better degree in Prime 4?
I think so. Usually, you could see, like, the different techniques for things. For example, like, you could see if they use a certain technique for shadowing or lighting. Or, yeah, if they had some kind of shader for water droplets or something, you could see that. You could see different techniques and things they use for graphics which are allowed from the engine. It doesn't necessarily mean that they'll use them or use them in the exact same way in the next game, but you can kind of get an idea of what the general graphical fidelity of the engine is capable of, assuming they're using the full potential of it.
Okay. Like, for me, I've always thought that this idea of this Prime Remaster, in and of itself, is kind of like a teaser for Prime 4. Because whatever sort of, like, let's say they do some sort of gameplay change. Like, what if, for example, they were to add a melee attack to the Prime Remaster? If they add a melee attack to the Prime Remaster, you can book that Prime 4 has a melee attack too. Think about this.
Yeah.
Metroid Samus Returns, that game... What was that? Who made that game?
It was Mercury Steam.
They made it? Okay. All right, so they made Mercury Steam. They added... Yeah, Mercury Steam made Metroid Samus Returns. They added a melee attack. Then they got then they got the job to make a new 2D Metroid, and Metroid Dread, which had a better version of the melee attack and a few other new mechanics. And then if Retro Studios remakes Prime 1, the studio that was already made the initial Prime game, and they're also making Prime 4, if they add a melee attack to Prime 1, like, that's basically, yeah, there's a melee attack in Prime 4. Like, that's what that would tell me. Like, that would be, like, a really easy prediction, I would say. So, that would be interesting.
I thought of as a decent example for potentially what we could see the differences between, like, Metroid Prime Remake and Metroid Prime 4. If our audience this isn't a Nintendo, but actually one of them is on Nintendo, though, on the Switch. Final Fantasy VII versus Final Fantasy Crisis Core. They both look... I'm not sure if they're using the same engine or not. I think they are, because they look so similar. I'd assume they are. But they don't look exactly the same. But they have a lot of the same, like, fidelity in the character modeling and things. And they use a lot of the same graphical techniques. So they look very similar at a glance. I would imagine that you could see something similar to that, where they use a lot of the same features, but not exactly. Like, there's some of the same areas in Crisis Core and Final Fantasy VII, but they don't look the same.
Right.
And the, like, underlying geometry and different things aren't as advanced as Final Fantasy VII, because it's being remade over Crisis Core, which is a PSP game. So but it still looks broadly equivalent to, like, the general look of Final Fantasy VII Remake. So maybe something similar to that.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I mean, if it's like something comparable that shows some of those effects, but, you know, obviously Prime 4 be it to a whole other level, that's cool. So we still haven't really... The only topic we've really tackled is our kind of hopes for a Nintendo Direct. But we still haven't really dug into... Well, we touched on Fire Emblem Engage earlier on, so yeah, we're kind of like halfway through, I guess you could argue. We're going to be bringing in Sammy here in a minute. I'm just waiting for them to be ready. But in the meanwhile, let me check in with this super chat from Taker. Taker says, I could see a new Metroid trilogy starting with 4. Retro Studios has been hiring a lot the last few years. They've been really building up their studio. If Nintendo seems to be putting a lot behind Prime 4, if Prime 4 is successful, I think they are going to follow it up. I don't know if they would necessarily lock themselves into doing another trilogy per se. I mean, I guess that would depend on Kensuke Tanabe, what he has in mind for the story. But what I would prefer for them to do is just to kind of just maybe leave it a little open where they can just kind of continually iterate upon it. Like, I don't want Prime 6 to be the last Prime we see for another 2 decades. I'd rather it be a situation where they're working on a new Metroid Prime and we get one every 5 years, or maybe one every 3 or so years. Because if we go back to the early 2000s, I mean, Prime 1 came out 2002, Prime 2 came out 2004, and then Prime 3 came out 2007. Like, I mean, if they could have 3 to 4 year development cycle windows between each game, that'd be amazing. So, Sammy is ready, so I'm going to bring Sammy in. And we're going to talk a little bit more about, I think maybe we could even do the Zelda topic with Sammy. I think that'd be fine. So, one moment here. Let me bring in Sammy. Oh, that's a mess. That's more of a mess.
Oh.
Yeah. There we go. I had some pictures that I put on the standby screen last stream. That's why it was messy. All right. All right, one moment here. All right. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear
I
you.
won't well this time.
I'm waiting for Brandon. I don't know if Brandon realized that I started a new chat. He may not. Oh, there he is. He figured it out. Yo, Brandon, you there?
Yeah. It didn't ring me for the call. I had to go
I got
find
you.
him.
I gotcha. Okay, I'm gonna bring us back in. Cool. The names are totally off. Forgive.
But
Yeah.
yeah, also, I'd be fine with talking about like Nintendo Direct stuff as well, because I kind of have a theory
Sure.
on that.
Yeah, sure. Shoot.
Yeah, like and I think you touched on this in like the last few podcasts, but near the end of a Nintendo generation, there's always like remasters and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
pretty much with every generation, especially like the 3DS. So I think if we see a lot of remasters announced, maybe we get something by the end of the year. I think we're going to get something by next spring anyway, hardware wise. But you know,
Yeah. For sure, there could be, like, I agree. I mean, also by next spring is early 2024, right? Like, so I think that's a year from now. It's a whole. Eventually, we're going to see something, right? So as time draws on, we get ever closer. But also, I agree that seeing more remasters could hint at them using that to help them transition, because remasters don't require as much development time. That frees up resources for other projects for their next generation, and it could be something that's easier to run on their current system that obviously isn't as powerful. So that could definitely be the case, and we saw that on 3DS. So, you know, maybe Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, that's coming out next month. We're talking about these rumors of a Metroid Prime remaster, and there is also the talk of the F-Zero one as well. So, you know, there could be others.
yeah, I'm thinking that would be the best move for them, because every new game that comes out from here on that's Switch only is something that can't come out on the next console to help them sell that console, right?
Something
So
that can or can't.
something that can't, unless they do like next gen upgrades and stuff.
So, like,
and
Pikmin 4 is coming out, is coming out for Switch, right? Like, you think that would not be available for the next system?
No, it would be, but
Like backwards
launch with
compatibility.
it.
Yeah.
You'll be able to play, and most likely there will be a performance patch or something, but it wouldn't be within that like first year of launch within the next console. Because I was on the bandwagon to that like new hardware with Tears of the Kingdom, but now that we're 4 months away,
Yeah.
it's still possible.
Well,
right?
I mean,
like
so
they can announce it this month or next month
I
and get it out in May, but
they would have. I feel like they would have to announce it in January.
yeah,
I mean, could it be February? Sure, but like for me, I will, and it's kind of why I could bring up the hope, right? Like this conversation we had a few weeks ago, saying, hey, you know, maybe they'll have a Tears of the Kingdom simultaneous release with new hardware. Like, if that's gonna happen, the announcement would have to be in January or like late January or something. So here we are, right? Like, if that thinking was correct, it's gonna happen sometime this month. And then if it doesn't, well, yeah, maybe it's too late. I think what happened once that OLED leak came out for Tears of the Kingdom, a lot of people kind of just gave up on the idea that the new hardware could come out with Tears of the Kingdom. But the interesting thing about that, though, is that we don't even know if that leak is legit. That leak might be fake. But also, a lot of people, like insiders, have been like saying, "Oh yeah, by 2024, new hardware is coming, all this and that." So, but then it's also contribute to the conversation as well. And I think a lot of people have kind of just given up on it happening with Tears of the Kingdom, which, you know, I think is a weird situation because Nintendo has always used hardware to push Zelda. But maybe it's just one of those situations where, like, yes, ideally they'd love to use Zelda to push the hardware, but it could be the case that while yes, Zelda's been delayed for so long, they can only delay it for so much more, and they need to come out with the game, and they're just not there yet for their hardware release. And so Tears of the Kingdom's going to come out because it's about time, and their hardware's just not ready yet. We're not there yet in terms of moving on to next generation.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important that it's more important that they don't rush the hardware rather than release Tears of the Kingdom with the new hardware. Tears of the Kingdom's going to do good regardless. And obviously, they're going to have a 3D Mario ready one of these days that'll, push the hardware good as well. So I don't think it's a necessity. I think maybe they possibly. But then how can you explain that small delay as well to spring?
Well,
I mean, was the game just suddenly not ready?
They did not clarify exactly why they were delaying it, and I definitely made a video speculating. Is it possible the reason they delayed it is for new hardware? Like, I definitely speculated that. Like, I did, and we still don't know the true answer because they didn't tell us it was because, hey, we need to pause the game. Hey, we came up with this new idea that we just absolutely have to implement. They didn't tell us why. They simply said they made the decision to do so. What does that mean? Maybe the decision was, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is coming out in November. Let's just push this up 6 months just so we can have a game that we know is going to sell 20 plus million like every 6 months. Like, maybe it's that simple. Maybe that's why they did it.
They just thought that Pokemon wouldn't sell next to Breath of the Wild because it's a competent, actually functioning open world game.
What if that's what it is? Well, no, seriously.
Just like people will realize how broken Pokemon is when they're too busy playing Tears of the Kingdom.
I don't know what would cause that, but like, it is an open world game, right? So like, Pokemon gameplay has gone a lot closer to Zelda than the past. So now the idea of them coming out alongside of each other, it's something they might not do. And interestingly, let's kind of think about the mainline Pokemon releases and what's come out around it. So 2017, Pokemon was still coming out for the 3DS, so did not matter. And that year we had Mario Odyssey come out for the holiday around the same time. Big Mario game that has Pokemon level sales, better than Pokemon level sales actually. And then 2018. We had the first Pokemon games that came out on Switch. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. A very modest, humble remake, or chibi remake, kitty remake, however you want to, very casualized remake of the first generation of Pokemon. That wasn't even like mainline enough for the competitive circuit to be even in it, right? It was almost like a side game even though it was mainline. But Smash Ultimate came out a month removed from that. So Let's Go came out in November. Smash Ultimate came out December. Huge game. Smash is huge. It's like the third best selling game on Switch. So huge. 2019 though is where things get a little interesting in terms of like seeing what Nintendo has coming out around the same time. So, and Brandon, feel free to fact check me or back me up or strike me down with lightning.
Me trying to like actually be correct on timelines, not gonna happen.
So 2019, Luigi's Mansion 3, which has proven to be a pretty substantial seller, came out in October.
Great game.
It's pretty much same time frame as Mario Odyssey, but 2 years later. And then the new generation of Pokemon came out 1 month after that. And that was pretty much it in terms of major releases during that time. I'm not saying there wasn't anything smaller, but it would be smaller and not really directly competing with Pokemon. Then in 2020...
I think you're correct.
Go on?
Because I think you're correct.
Okay.
I think Luigi's Mansion 3 was their big... And Pokemon as well, but Nintendo's big thing for the holiday, not named Pokemon, was Luigi's Mansion. Because that sold like It ended up being a huge seller, like 12 million or something.
Yeah, it's big. 10 plus is you may be right with it being that much. I just don't remember the exact numbers, but I know it's over 10. Trying to like Google it real quick. Luigi's Mansion 3 sales, and it as of March 31st, 2022, 11.43 million copies. So that's really close to 12 for sure, and it's still gonna sell. So that was almost a year ago. So
yeah, it's one of those evergreen titles that like I have no idea how Mario Kart 8's still doing as well as it is.
The game's gonna sell over 50 million copies. It's crazy. It's just crazy how well it's doing. But anyway, 2020 2020 was a DLC year. And in 2020 was also the COVID year, right? Yeah, COVID kind of
it was a pretty slow
There
year.
wasn't really any major releases. We had Pikmin 3 Deluxe and a Zelda Warriors game. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity was the holiday game. And it was pretty cool. It's the best-selling Musou game of all time, and I enjoyed it. But it's at the end of the day, it's a Musou game. That may sound like I'm throwing some shade at Musou games. All I'm trying to say is that a Musou game is not a Super Mario Odyssey, a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, a Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's a few tiers below that. Anyway, 2021 was interesting because Nintendo had Metroid Dread, which is pretty hype, but from a sales perspective, it's not like on a level of Luigi's Mansion or Mario Odyssey or anything like that. And then they had Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl that came out in November, but also a week removed from it, we had Shin Megami Tensei 5, and also in October we had Mario Party Superstar. So that was an interesting time because there was 4 different major Switch games that came out within 2 months of each other. That was a fun little period. But Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl is also kind of like, it was an outsourced remake of a older generation, right? But it's still a big seller. Still a huge seller. And Shin Megami Tensei 5 was big, and that came out a week from it. So, and then Metroid Dread, and there were games. Nintendo was willing to put games around the Pokemon release. So I guess there's a point there. And then last year, we had Bayonetta 3 and Mario Rabbids come out October. And then Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was just by itself. I don't know. Maybe the point Brandon brings up that it would just have made it look bad. I don't know if that would be the only reason why they would delay Tears of the Kingdom all the way till May. I think
was a joke.
Yeah. Maybe it's a contributing factor, but I feel like there's got to be a whole bunch of other reasons. I don't know. I'll say this. If there's no new hardware that's launching with Tears of the Kingdom, as seems likely, I think really probably the reason is the simple reason, and it's just they weren't quite ready with the game yet because there were things they were working on, and that's it. So yeah. It's usually the simplest answer is the answer. Unless there's a direct tomorrow, and they're like, hey, we're going to have a Nintendo Direct, and it's going to talk about Tears of the Kingdom and our next piece of hardware. Get ready, bring your hype caps. That's not happening, but if it does, it's not happening, though. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I just really want to experience the launch of a new console again, and just that launch when like a 2017 kind of time where every game's just massive.
Yeah,
I want to try doing a midnight release.
Yeah, I remember when Switch came out, my excitement for that. I had gotten the Master Sword Special Edition. Well, I didn't get the statue because that was an online only thing, and I missed my opportunity for that. But I got everything else. I got all the Amiibo. And that was an exciting time. Really, really enjoyed that. I mean, there's definitely an excitement to new hardware, especially when it has coming with Zelda. But if it's not with Zelda, I think if it's with Mario, that also could be just as exciting.
Yeah, maybe they could do like maybe they could launch. Maybe why they've been taking so long on this Mario game because it's an actual proper. Because Odyssey was open ended, but not open world. Not like Bowser's Fury is. I kind of consider
Yeah.
that open world. So maybe it's just like a huge Bowser's Fury that launches with the next console. I'd be really down for that.
Yeah, an open world Pokemon game would be insane. I'm right there with you. For sure.
Hey, Mario.
What happened? Hello?
I just thought he was talking about Mario.
What did I say?
You said,
said
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Did I say Pokemon? Sorry, the light started changing colors, so my brain was distracted. And then open world Pokemon, like that's been on my tongue. But no, yeah, I meant Mario. I was thinking Mario. Like I was thinking like, I mean, when we saw before they showed us the Mario Bros. Movie direct, and they showed us that poster of Mario, like that poster's been on my mind because it's just like that's open world Mario. You know, like that. I want to see that. Like that looks amazing. And that coming out with new hardware would be sick. Like, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think this? Let's say the system doesn't come out till next year. Do you think that Mario game will be exclusive to the next system and it will not come out for Switch?
No.
No.
It depends.
What if we have to wait till Christmas, or we have to literally wait till like October or November of 2024 for this next system to come out? Which would be, that's what, like a year and 10 months from now? Almost 2 years? That's when they release.
Yeah, I think they would be very. It would not be a smooth transition. Not as smooth as if something came out early next year at the end of this year. So would they really want to make a new 3D Mario? Would they really want to alienate the Switch player base right away though? Because by that time, it will have sold like
over 140 million.
150 million by
yeah,
then.
maybe even that much. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like it'll be very close to the DS and PS2. So it's gonna have, and it's.
Well,
I
mean,
think even if new hardware releases, then I think Switch still gets support for like a year.
yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just thinking about it from the perspective of, like the old thinking. The old thinking is you have a new game that's exclusive, so people will buy the system for said exclusive.
I think they could do something like what PlayStation's doing, like how Ratchet and Clank is exclusive to PS5, Demon's Souls as well.
Yeah, they could have a couple. I mean, even like the new 3DS had a couple of exclusives.
Yeah, but that didn't go. It didn't work. It didn't actually go over really well for that.
No, it did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, how was that Xenoblade port to the new 3DS?
Inconsequential. I don't know. Like,
I don't think
it's
it
not
sold
significant.
that much.
Yeah.
I gave us like something like maybe a couple 100,000 copies. I don't even think it hit 1 million.
Yeah, and I remember I was very cheap, so I got Hyrule Legends on the old 3DS. Oh my god. Like
frames.
15, 20 frames per second. Yeah.
Yeah. That's rough.
So
I'm looking at this report. April 2015 NPD, Xenoblade Chronicles 3D sold under 75,000 copies.
Christ.
I mean, that was in a month, though.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, I doubt
Yeah.
it sold that much long term.
Yeah. But let's
maybe.
What were you gonna say, Sammy?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say maybe their Monolith's their new IP, because I believe their new IPs within like 2 years of release. maybe that's
I hope so.
maybe that's one of the first next gen exclusives. But like you were saying, if it was like an MMO, like I've been playing Final Fantasy 14. If it's an MMO like that, that would be great.
It would be great, and I guess it's one of those things where does it make people buy the heart? It's tricky. It's tricky how I don't know, like, what do they decide is worth making an exclusive for that system.
I think they'll make an exclusive if they feel like they can't do the concept on the original Switch. For example, like with you brought up earlier, Ratchet and Clank on the PS5. That game could not run on the PS4 because it doesn't have an SSD. It just simply can't load the game in the way that game requires. If they did something that where they just could not port it to the original Switch, I think maybe, or if there was some kind of new mechanic to the Switch where they wanted to make a game around that and it wouldn't necessarily translate to the original Switch, they might make that exclusive. But I don't think they're gonna just plan on making their normal game lineup exclusive unless it has to be.
Yeah. I mean, actually, when Sam, you brought up the point of the Xenoblade, not Xenoblade, the Monolith Soft IP, and I've speculated that what if it is like an MMO, right? That might not be something that's feasible on Switch. So maybe if that's something that's coming maybe 2-3 years down the road, that's one of the first exclusives for this next system. Like that makes sense. And it's also a game that they wouldn't expect to sell 30+ million anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not like you'd be leaving a ton of people behind.
Yeah, because I mean the Xenoblade games sell 2 to 3 million, right? So if it ends up being something that's like real, that becomes like a big deal, then people will buy the system for it, and it could find success on that system as people buy that system over time. Like if it becomes one of those evergreen titles for that system, it would have a chance. Yeah, maybe. I could see something like that. But so you said you also want to talk a little bit about Fire Emblem. Was there anything in particular you wanted to kind of speak on in reference to Fire Emblem, Sammy? I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't?
I can hear you now.
Alright. So by it being, because I'm kind of a new Fire Emblem player.
Sure.
By it being similar to like Awakening and Echoes and stuff.
Yeah.
So what is it like? Is it just like a mission by mission? Obviously, there's going to be like the hub still, but
yeah. Well, I didn't play the 3DS ones. I didn't play them from beginning to end, so I'm not going to pretend to be.
You had Awakening. Awakening pretty much is like you have like a world map, and you move. It's kind of like how the world maps in like 2D Mario's work. You just like move around in a line, and then you select levels, and then you just keep going as you unlock more battles, and then the story unfolds as you go in a linear fashion, with nothing in between. I assume obviously there's going to be other stuff we know, like the I forget the name of the place, but that monastery replacement there is. But
yeah, the
I don't know if
Somniel.
there's anything beyond that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I've seen some stuff where it looks like some of the like battle arena areas are explorable as well.
yeah, that
But
part
I'm
we
not sure
learned
what's up with that.
recently, or at least I did, and that has me really excited. So, yeah, to Brandon's point, I've seen footage of that. Like you said, I think Brandon, you brought up a great example. What like the old Super Mario Bros. Games where there's like a world map that you can move around, and you pick like missions. Like it's like that, but when you actually have these fights, after the fights are over, you can actually explore that entire environment in 3D. So what's interesting is that even though the Somniel, which is kind of like the replacement for the monastery from Three Houses, like this little hub area It's like this castle sort of place that has different things you can do, like cooking, exercising, practicing, mini games, talking to your friends and stuff. Like you can do all that in this area that you can explore. But when you're actually going through the main campaign, you select, I guess, the missions like on a sort of world map thing. But then you do the battles, and the battles have like a sort of like a traditional Fire Emblem map that each battle transitions into 3D, and you see the world rendered entirely in 3D during the fights. But after the entire mission is over, before moving on, you can literally walk around that entire map in 3D as if it's like a traditional third-person like action adventure game. And that's something that's kind of new that actually has me really excited, because there's like a whole other level of exploration that I didn't expect to see in a Fire Emblem game. Then we're gonna get that level of exploration. Nice. So I feel like that kind of describes the overall structure of the game. And you talk to characters, right? So you're gonna talk to characters in the Somniel, which is like that hub area you kind of go back to, but also the reason for exploring the maps after the battles are over is to talk to different characters from the battle, I think, from what I understand. And you build up your relationships with these different characters, and depending on your relationships, that can lead to, I'm not certain on this part, but I want to say that can lead to some affinity bonuses of some sort. That's how it worked in Three Houses, at least. And also there's story there. Like you learn more about each character, and each character has their own story arc, and the more you get to know them, the more fleshed out that can become.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I've seen a lot of the trailers, and this is the first Fire Emblem I've waited for. Because my first was Three Houses, and then, yeah, I haven't played any other Fire Emblem since, because, you know, I was going to try to play Path of Radiance legally,
yeah.
but $600.
It's a little much.
Yeah.
A little much. That's the kind of game that would work really well if they were to bring a whole bunch of GameCube games back.
Yeah, and that's one of the more iconic ones. That's got Ike, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Smash character. It would be...
And that was one of the first games that started
cool
using like those really pretty cutscenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, I'd be all about it if they were to bring that one back. But I'm very excited for this game. Like it to me it feels like they're doing everything I kind of wanted them to fix. Visually the game's a lot sharper, more colorful, performance is better. There's more exploration now, but the story is streamlined, so you're gonna be able to get more out of that in one go around. I enjoyed the teaching life stuff in Three Houses, but it is hard to kind of repeat. And I mean, I think with that now gone, the game is instantly more appealing to people like Brandon, who were not into it.
Get rid of all this filler crap. Don't need it.
Well, actually, another interesting thing. So, a difference between the Somniel and the Monastery that we've heard about is that the Somniel for Fire Emblem Engage, there are a lot of extra tasks you can do, like exercising and eating.
Actually, it looks interesting.
It looks fun. There's even this
look at least basically entertaining.
There's this one that's like looks like a shooter, which is kind of fun. But what I've heard is that all those different things that you do, they do offer you benefits, but the benefits are for the next battle. They are short-term benefits. So if you're not feeling up to it, you don't have to do it, and you can skip it. But for the Monastery in Three Houses, you could skip stuff, but there's a lot of advantages to kind of focusing on your students and teaching them different things and choosing different tracks. And so if you were to skip it, you're impacting your long-term kind of growth and direction. So those are the differences, right? Like you're not
basically just throwing away all the customization in the game for your characters.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I feel like I want to say they auto leveled or something, but
It like auto puts them down paths and stuff, but you don't get to choose like what they turn into. I don't think.
you lose a little bit of control there. But
I'm not sure exactly.
yeah, I'll have to go back. But that's the general conversation that's been sort of spoken of about this game. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, right? Like you still get all those things, and it's still important to do. Like there's still value behind it, but you're not necessarily punished long term for skipping out on them if you're not feeling up to it at one point or another. So, I'm all in on this game. Like I'm excited for this. Let me see here.
Yeah, and from the gameplay I've seen, it runs smooth and it's a really pretty game. I mean, noticeably better than Three Houses.
Yeah. So I see we got a shit talker in the chat here. Kent Harper, is he done talking about his haircut? I left an hour ago. I talked about it for 5 minutes. So yeah, you can
mentions it one time.
Yeah, I'll talk about it again now. You should leave again. Yeah,
we'll make a whole podcast dedicated to your haircut.
Nah, I'm not that vain. We're good. Did I don't know if I got around to this, but Taker had provided a super chat earlier saying I could see a Metroid trilogy starting with 4. We talked about that earlier? We did. Okay, cool. Because I saw it there and I was wondering if we got around to it. Okay, cool. So basically is like I do hope the Prime 4 does lead to more, but not just a set 3. I just hope it's kind of indefinite. But anyway, Sammy, is there anything else you want to kind of touch on before we move on?
No, not real much else.
Okay. All right, man. Well, it was great having you on again. If you want to come on at any point again, just let me know. All right?
All right, thanks, man.
All right. Take care. Have a good night.
Have a good one.
All right, bye.
You too.
Jaded.
All right, let me fix this here. All right, there we go. So, let's now get into the next topic, which would be that Zelda movie rumor. So,
yes.
I made a video today that I had to take down. It's going to come out tomorrow, probably. I say probably because what if there's a Nintendo Direct tomorrow, but there probably isn't. So, it'll come back up tomorrow. There was a huge audio issue that I had to get resolved. So, worry about that later. But anyways, I mentioned the rumor in the video, and I was really just talking about like what would it take to kind of make a Zelda movie. But there is this rumor that there is a Zelda movie coming. And basically it's coming from this news venue outlet, Giant Frickin' Robot, and they make a lot of reports or scoops about movies and stuff. And if you check their own website, they have this section that shows everything they've reported that supposedly has come true. I don't pay attention that much to different movies and stuff, so when I take a look at it, I'm like, okay, maybe. But if you kind of like Google their reliability, there are articles that challenge their reliability.
I mean, if you cherry-picked everything you've ever guessed correct, you could probably look like an insider.
That's because I'm pretty good. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you're right, though. People can cherry-pick things, to your point. So... there's... I'm taking it with a grain of salt is my main point here. But also, basically, the scoop is just that Illumination is working on a Zelda movie after the Mario Bros. Movie. And that would be exciting if that's happening. But I also think it should be noted that the Mario movie, they announced that back in 2018. It took them years to actually go into production. It took them a few years before they even went into production. There's a lot of conversations, and we heard murmurings that maybe the movie wouldn't even happen. Like, it wasn't even set in stone necessarily. And there was even a report that came out a couple years ago, less than a couple years ago, from IGN, that Netflix was going to work on a live-action Zelda series, but Netflix leaked that,
yes.
and Nintendo canceled the project, apparently. My personal interpretation from that is that they were still very early on, and I think Nintendo just didn't like how Netflix was handling it.
Yeah, they didn't trust Netflix after that.
Yeah. So, the main point I'm trying to make with all this, though, is that while Illumination may make something Zelda, and this rumor could be legit, it also might not be legit, and even if it is legit, that doesn't mean the project is going to happen anytime soon, or will actually make it to the public. But, yeah.
Well, we can still have some fun.
Say
we
it
can
again?
still talk about it.
Oh, yeah, we could talk about it. By the way, Thomas Owen, we haven't done the Metroid topic yet. So, don't worry. The Metroid topic has not happened yet. That was just side Metroid conversation. Metroid topic is after this. Yeah, man, we can. I mean, Brandon, I've kind of explained the situation, but tell me what you think. Like, do you think that this is for sure happening, or not?
Ooh.
And what kind of expectations do you have for a movie if it does happen?
It's all good things. I kind of don't believe it. I don't know. I thought that they would do like a Donkey Kong movie afterwards, and they would follow like the theme park, because the Donkey Kong expansion's coming out first for that. So I thought maybe they'd make a Donkey Kong movie, but it's possible that they won't make a Donkey Kong movie as their second movie, or they could just be making both. I would like it. I don't know if Illumination is the studio for it. Like, I don't know if Nintendo needs to use Illumination, like, for this movie. Like, I would rather a different studio. Do they have contracts for... I assume they don't have a contract with Illumination for, like, just Nintendo movies in general. So they could use a different studio if they wanted to. I'd hope somebody else. Because Illumination's very, like, good for more wacky, funny, like...
and
less serious stuff.
I hear what you're saying with that. That's a great point. Like, I feel Zelda would probably have a little bit more of a serious tone. That doesn't mean there wouldn't be humor in it, but it
Right.
it might be, if there's like a spectrum, right? And Mario's like on an 8 or 9 in terms of humor. Zelda would probably be around a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, unless they go with some kind of like Wind Waker style, that I could see Illumination doing a decent job.
Sure.
But otherwise, like, imagine if they got DreamWorks to do it. That'd be insane. That's
That
probably
would be
too big of a
insane.
studio.
That would
But,
be insane.
I was thinking about DreamWorks actually doing it because I keep seeing clips of the new Puss in Boots movie by DreamWorks, and that looks so good. I really want to go see it. But I think that DreamWorks could actually do a really good job with Zelda.
Doesn't DreamWorks
But as
do
far as
Disney,
Illumination goes, huh?
Isn't DreamWorks Disney, though?
I think so.
Yeah.
I do think Disney owns DreamWorks now.
Now, something I want to bring
Disney
up, though,
owns everybody. Almost.
just as a counter argument, right? Like, just because we've seen Illumination do mostly, like, very comedic stuff, doesn't mean they can't go in a different direction, right? Like, we see, like, at least when it comes to video games, we've seen developers, they handle one sort of theme, then they turn around, they do another. Like, one example that comes to mind, Retro Studios did the Metroid Prime series, and then they made Donkey Kong, which is very different. Metroid Prime, for the time, realistic, more mature, not mature, but darker themed, shooting, first person, and then they transitioned to very cartoony, semi-comedic, side-scrolling. Like, it was two different styles of gameplay, two different art styles, storytelling. Like, they were on opposite ends of the spectrum, really. So, like, that's with video games, and that's Retro Studios. The Illumination is a whole other beast. But I'm simply saying, like, even though what we come to expect from Illumination are more things on the comedic side, why can't they maybe, you know, going for more, you know, something more Zelda-esque, right? Like, you look at what they're doing in the Mario movie. They're creating these giant fantasy worlds. The animation looks strong. There's a lot of really great characters. Nintendo has a relationship with them, and the effects are top notch. Like, this is one of the best looking movies I've ever seen in that style.
And to be fair, they do make Bowser look pretty badass. So.
Yeah, they're showing an ability to kind of showcase those different types of elements. So if they were to get in Zelda staff, I mean, they can still outsource some elements. Like, why couldn't they make a movie like that? It would require a shift, but don't think about the shift from Despicable Me to Zelda. Think of it from the Mario movie to Zelda. Like, that's a little bit easier to swallow, right?
Yeah. Definitely. As far as, like, how the movie would go, I would kind of enjoy it if it's, like, an Indiana Jones style thing. Because Indiana Jones, you have, like, these temples and puzzles and different things, but also you have, like, these world-spanning adventures.
Hey, by the way, Brandon,
be cool.
Just a correction. Apparently, people in the chat are saying that DreamWorks is not owned by Disney, but rather Universal. So, that we could see Nintendo maybe use them. I want to double check that. But
fair enough.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I just want to correct my
that's fine.
Poor speculation.
But yeah, something I do, because they gotta incorporate dungeons, right? But it can't be like a super, like, they have to be more action oriented as well. But I'm trying to think of, like, the plot exactly. I wonder if they would go for more, like, because we got Girl Boss Peach, like, why not have Girl Boss Zelda? We can have both. So
I don't expect them to do Wind Waker, but, like, I feel like the world, characters, and story of Wind Waker would actually be very well suited for, like, an Illumination style movie. You got the Koroks, which are basically like the minions or the Toad equivalents, right? Like, it makes sense though, it fits. And Tetra is like the ideal girl boss, you know? Yeah. But it makes sense for her because she's raised as a captain of a pirate ship. Like, she has to be this tough leader. Like, that is her role in the world. So I would love it. I don't think they'll do that because I think that whenever they do make this Zelda movie, if it happens, it's almost like they're reintroducing Zelda to the world, because a big part of their plan is to kind of introduce these movies to a larger audience, thus creating a larger fan base, because those people will then come back to the games, play the games, and become fans of it, right? So I think they don't want to necessarily go in one direction for Zelda. They want to maybe come up with something that's very middle ground for that. Yeah, that makes sense. Something that people are like, yeah, that's typical.
It's much
Zelda.
harder to see a standalone Zelda movie versus a Mario movie, though,
because Mario has a more cohesive art style.
Less story.
Yeah. Well, there's multiple angles.
For me,
it's
the biggest one I'm thinking of is just Mario has a less defined story. Like, Zelda has a whole, like, dedicated fan base of just, like, explaining theories on how the timeline works and stuff. So it's like a lot harder to make a standalone Zelda experience. It's like, do you follow a game? Do you try to reimagine a game? Do you just come up with a whole new thing that's not related to the timeline? Do you make something and actually make it canon to the timeline? Like, what happens here with the story? Do you want to create, like, a whole separate timeline that's canon just for your own, like, movie universe, maybe? Like, what do you do here? And then, of course, it's like, also what you're saying, I think you were going for, like, the art style, because Zelda has, like, wildly different art styles, where Mario is much more similar. Yeah. That's also a big thing. It's like, which art style do you go for? I imagine they would go for something in between, like Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild. Kind of like the E3 2011 demo, but more detailed and more leaning towards Breath of the Wild, like more toony than that. But I imagine they would try to stick for something like Breath of the Wild, because that's kind of the biggest. Obviously, Breath of the Wild is the best-selling Zelda game ever by a lot.
Yeah,
it's the newest one. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna go with any art style, I agree it should probably be something comparable to that. I don't think I'd be a fan of them choosing like Child Link per se. However,
Oh,
I
no.
thought about it a little bit. I could see them doing it if there was like, so for example, like what if they were to take like the Ocarina of Time story and make that into a movie by going in the direction of something like Illumination or maybe DreamWorks, right? Like that means that they can be more flexible with their characters. Like they could have time skips. Like they could afford to maybe use the same voice actor that does Child Link and Adult Link. Like they could, I mean, they would probably have to change their voice around a little bit, but it would probably be easier than having both a young Link actor and a adult Link actor. I mean, and if it were to be live action. Just saying that, like, it's a little
live
bit
action. Oh, like, that's a whole nother.
It's a whole other beast.
Thing.
It's a whole other beast, and my point is simply that I feel like live action is harder. You do a live action, it's gonna be compared to like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. I just don't think Nintendo is going to make any live action movies anytime soon, to be honest. I don't see the reason. Like, I don't think most of their titles are that fit for live action.
The thing is, though, like, I'm okay if Nintendo never does live action. So, think about this. You know remember the E3 Direct that showcased Smash Brothers and revealed Ridley at the end?
Yeah.
And it shows, like, Samus walking in this, like, dark area with Mario and Mega Man. But, like, that was, like, some pretty good CGI.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of depicting...
All the CGI for the Smash trailers are really good, but that one's exceptionally good.
It's really good. But imagine if they were to make, like, a Metroid movie that looks like that. Like, it could still be like the idea of Metroid, its inspiration was from Alien. Like, they could make something like that, but it could be like CGI. Like, why not?
Be a slow-paced action thriller. Oh.
Think about this for a second, though.
Be nice.
How many horror movies do we have that are made by studios by like DreamWorks or Pixar or Illumination? I can't think of one. Not a single one. So imagine if Nintendo were to just kind of go in on using studios like this to they're making movies for different franchises, and someday, probably many, many years from now, but someday what if they make a Metroid one and it's a horror style movie, but with that kind of animation? I've never seen anything like that before. And I think it could be, I actually think it'd be really good. Like, just because it's anime doesn't mean it can't be scary. I mean, video games are like that, and they're scary. They can be. So that'd be really cool. But getting back on topic to Zelda, and yes, a problem with Zelda is that their art styles have been vastly different. And to your point, I think something like Breath of the Wild might be their best bet because it has the widest reach. It's the most recent big Zelda. I still think like it'll ultimately have a lot of elements pulled from other Zelda games, so it won't be quite like Link from Breath of the Wild.
Choose a more like detailed art style because Breath of the Wild is kind of more simple. Whereas something like they were trying to do with like the 2011 tech demo or a more modern take on like Twilight Princess.
Blow our minds. Like you know when we saw the Mario movie and the detail blew our minds? Yeah. That for Zelda. It'll just blow our minds. Just like, and then we'll see it. I'm like, that's how the next Zelda should look. Like,
Right.
We're so far away from that happening, though.
Yeah, especially since Nintendo's like doing this hybrid handheld thing. Just gonna need a couple generations.
It's tough.
Maybe in 15 years.
Jeez. We really have to wait that long?
Maybe longer.
I mean,
Illumination has really good CGI. Their movies look good.
yeah, it does look really good. I mean, that's one of the neat things about watching the Mario movie. It's like watching like what a Mario game could look like if it was on like really, really powerful hardware. Let me ask you a question though. Do you think if Nintendo were making games for the PS5 that they could look kind of like the Mario movie, or no?
No.
Or PS5's
Well,
not there yet either.
They could use Unreal Engine 5. They could use like Lumen and Nanite, and they could make something that's generally comparable in some aspects. There's a lot of effects though that generally, and like physics things that genuinely cannot be replicated. Like all of those moving giant mushroom plants and all that stuff. Like there's just way too much geometry in one place. Even if you had Nanite, maybe on like a PS6.
PS6. So.
But I mean, we have real-time ray tracing now, baby, so you can get something that looks remotely comparable. Because you definitely couldn't on PS4.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Like whenever I like think of Breath of the Wild in my head, I don't remember it as pretty. But then when I go and play it, I'm like, oh, this is a good-looking game. It's just interesting how my memory works for that.
Mine's the exact opposite. When I think of Breath of the Wild, all that comes to mind is like the edge cases, like the parts of the world that don't look that good. You're like, oh, you can tell that this like corner over the world, but there's like barely any grass and the textures are like really bland. Like that's what comes up, because usually I'm thinking of like how I want the game to look better. And then like I go and I play the game, and then I go into like a town where everything's like really nice. The developers have come in and like made sure everything looks perfect, and it's like, man, this game looks really good. So it's actually the opposite for me. Like every time I think of Breath of the Wild,
I don't think it's
of, like,
the opposite.
The worst case scenario.
No, what I'm saying is when I think of Breath of the Wild, I don't think of it as good. But then when I play it, I'm like, wow, this game looks a lot better than I thought.
Oh, I thought you said
we're on the same page.
Yeah. Okay, we're on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps for slightly different reasons, but like whenever I think of Breath of the Wild, I almost kind of remember it as like a very like grayed out, foggy mess. But then when I play it, I'm like, not that foggy.
It's a decent amount of aliasing, but you know, what are you gonna do?
It still looks pretty good though. Like I'm still like, oh okay,
yeah.
this looks pretty good. Like this is pretty. This is a pretty game.
Texture detail is probably the biggest thing.
You know what it is? I think part of it is that because when I'm editing videos and I use like the same trailers and footage and stuff, and it's like there's a lot of compression, like you don't see as much detail there. But when you actually put it up on your television, you play it there, it's substantially different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See everything in motion.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to like divulge too many details that I plan on kind of speaking on in my video of how a Zelda game would work. I mean, a Zelda movie would work. But, you know, something I'll kind of going back to that for a little bit before we move on to the Metroid topic. With the story, I feel like with the story, it can't just be, hey, let's just do, like, alright, here's Link, he has to go to several dungeons, get the key for the Triforce or whatever, and then fight Ganondorf. Like, that wouldn't be a good story. So how do you personally envision them changing that up for it to make sense? It took me a while, man.
Oh.
Like, last night when I was trying to record for the video that I had to push up till tomorrow, like, I was like, okay, how does this work? Like, how can they make the Zelda movie work as a movie? And it's challenging. It might be why we never see a Zelda movie, because they may not know how to do it right. But I think there's a few ways to do it.
Okay.
Watch the video tomorrow. Find out. Nah, I'm not gonna do that to you guys. I'll tell you. I just don't want to. Okay, so
give us one of them.
Yeah. if you take a look at, say, like, for example, I'm trying to think of a good scenario, but I don't want to use the same scenario as I used in my video. I'm trying to give you like a new scenario. But think of, for example, okay, here's one. Snow Peak Ruins in Twilight Princess. You're exploring this snowy area, and you see this mansion. And maybe, like, you know, so there's a party with Link. Maybe there's like 2 or 3 people. It doesn't have to be a big cast. But a cast, so there's some dialogue. And they're adventuring around Hyrule, finding... Maybe their goal is to find, like, a few sages. Like, and they need the sages to open up some sort of realm or tell them where the Triforce piece or something like that. There's some sort of reason to look for something. But the dungeons aren't, like, super conventional. They kind of happen by chance. So they're going through a snowy region because they were told by some sort of prophet to go to a snowy region, and they'll chance upon the next whatever it is they need to find. And they don't realize where they're going, but they're really cold, and they end up in the Snow Peak Ruins. And then think about the story scenario that happens in Twilight Princess with the Snow Peak Ruins. You find yourself in this mansion, and there's this couple that are Yetis. And there's this entire family dynamic that you have to deal with as you're exploring this ancient mansion that has this long history. And there's a bit of a romance that you discover as you explore through it. There's a story there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the scenario. So I think when it comes to thinking about how you would handle maybe dungeons in a Zelda movie, it's more about not thinking about the dungeons in Zelda games that are very like, oh, go to the fire temple, go to the water temple. It's more about the dungeons that sort of break your expectations, that subvert them. Another great example. So in the Wind Waker, when you think you're gonna go get that third pearl, you go to the Great Fish Isle. There is no dungeon there. The island is destroyed, and that leads to an entirely different kind of quest where you have to go back to Windfall Island, and you meet up with the pirates, and this whole dynamic with the pirates, and then there's this race through the storm to go back to the original island you came from, Outset, and then that's where you find Jaboon, and then there's this entirely different, like, interaction there, right? So I think there should be dungeons, but those dungeons will be done in ways that were not expected, and they'll lead to interesting story scenarios. It's those dungeons that have fun stories with unique characters involved that make it interesting. Then they would go along with you in the adventure. Like, I think where the great thing about the Wind Waker is that there are each dungeon, you're not necessarily handling the dungeon by yourself. You have the King of Red Lions kind of like guiding you, and then also there's a couple other characters, Medley or Maker, that might be in there with you for whatever reason or another. So it could be something like that. Because if it's a movie, you need to have an exchange of words and dialogue. It can't just be this mute adventure. And that's a whole other element. Like, I almost think that the Zelda movie might in some ways...
that's the hard thing, because I'd say like an Indiana Jones thing, where he goes through and solves puzzles, and there's exposition and storytelling throughout the dungeon to make it interesting, but Link doesn't talk. So either he's going to be talking a lot, or they need somebody else to talk for him.
I think it's both. I don't know, like, I feel like Link has to talk. It actually, in the Wind Waker, Link does talk, which is interesting. So, Wind Waker is one of the few Zelda games where there are multiple characters that are in the dungeon with you, as opposed to just by yourself. And we see him actually talk a little bit. It's just more like, hey, like, little things like that, or come on. We do hear actual discernible words from Link in the Wind Waker. And they could actually, like, I think they should build on that for an actual movie, if there's going to be character interactions. I think they just got to get over Link not talking. Like, they just got to do it. The way people are complaining about Mario's voice, they have to do that for Link eventually too. That's my take.
Yeah.
At least for the movies.
Maybe. I don't know. It is so tricky, though.
I think he could be stoic. Like, so he's a man of few words, but still some words. There will be some words. Now, there's Geralt from The Witcher, and I'm not a big Witcher fan, but from when I see the Netflix series, he's not like a super talkative person either.
No.
So, you know, but he still can talk, and there's a difference there. Also, The Witcher is a very dark, mature series. Zelda's not going to be like that, so it's going to be more on the, you know, it's going to be more kid friendly probably. Maybe teen or
on the lighter side.
It's gonna be on the lighter side.
PG-13 at best.
I just think you know what? Let's put a poll.
I mean, it won't even be PG-13. I'm sure it'll be like.
Will Link have to talk in a Zelda movie?
PG.
That's the question for the poll. It's a little late, so I know not everyone's here. Will Link have to talk in a Zelda movie? I'm putting out the poll. Curious what you guys have to say on that. Actually got another super chat here from Taker. Do you guys think Mario can hit 1 billion with strong intel? What does INT''L mean? International?
Billion.
You mean like in the post? You mean in the box office for the movie?
Oh, hit $1 billion? Probably not.
What has hit
Probably
$1 billion?
Not. Marvel movies, like huge Marvel movies. Avatar.
Box office sales Avatar 2. Avatar 2 soars past Top Gun with 1.5 billion to become the highest grossing film of 2022. All right, let's look up highest grossing.
Very rare for a movie to hit over $1 billion. You have to be like, yeah, like I'm saying, like a huge Disney movie or something, maybe.
Films. I guess I don't know. Am I that blind that like I think that the Mario movie is going to be like incredibly successful?
I think it would be successful, but I don't think it's going to hit over $1 billion.
Yeah, I know. I guess I don't
what
have.
What did the Sonic movies hit? Because that'd be a good reference.
Good question. That's a
because those were very popular.
Great point, Brandon. So I'm looking here. Oh boy. I'm on a wiki and it's not really like. Okay, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 grossed 190 million.
Okay, that's about what I was expecting. Somewhere close to around 200 million or something.
Okay.
I could see
An extra digit
million.
would be $1 billion, right? Math.
Yeah, too much. I mean, it could hit like $250 million.
So you think it'll only do marginally better
billion.
than the Sonic movie?
I mean,
so a quarter.
That's only 60 million more.
Right.
Hey, I think it could. It's gonna do better than the Sonic movie. I think there's more hype. It's Mario.
Yeah, but you're saying only a little bit more.
I mean, 60 million's a lot more. But
it's all relative.
Maybe it could. I think that most.
That's like what 33
like 500 million.
You're saying like 33% better.
I don't think it's gonna hit more than 400 million. Like maybe. I don't think it's gonna reach $500 million. It would have to do excessively well.
Wow.
I don't know if any video game movie's ever gotten $500 million.
That's interesting. Here it's saying that Spider-Man No Way Home only had a domestic gross of 241 million.
That's no way.
I don't know. Maybe this.
Oh, domestic. Domestic just means only in the United States.
Okay. Well, the question was in the United States. So.
He asked if it had. Taker wanted to know if it was going to hit $1 billion just in the U.S.
Yeah. Here it says Sonic the Hedgehog 2 broke Sonic the Hedgehog's record of 58 million for the highest weekend debut for a video game adaptation. And here it says that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 grossed 72 million. Yeah, I don't have a great understanding of these numbers. I really don't.
So 190 international. I think he wanted to know international though, didn't he?
Yeah.
To be 190 million.
I'll say this. I think the Mario movie is going to greatly outperform the Sonic movie, and I think it's by more than 60 million.
What do you suspect? You think it would hit $500 million?
I really don't. I can't give you numbers. I feel like I could double it. Yeah.
I think 300 to 400 million is fair.
I think Mario brings a lot more hype than Sonic.
Yeah.
Actually, I think doubling
for sure.
We may be really under. I don't know. I think there's a decent chance we could be severely underestimating just how well this is gonna do.
Possible. I don't know. It also depends on how much they show it. It depends if Nintendo wants to actually pay for like how many theater spots they want.
That's a good point. Yeah, like how invested is Nintendo? I want to say they're pretty invested though, because they're having these directs. You know, they had a spot at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if they have an ad at the Super Bowl. I want to say yes, they will. And
That'd be pretty hype.
And that's speculation because we don't know. But if they do, would you say they'd probably be in the territory of getting as much as they can in the theaters? So
I hope so. I want to see it.
By the way,
theaters.
I'm definitely watching it in theaters.
Oh yeah, if they show it in theaters near me, I'm gonna see it.
For sure, Z's.
100% day one.
Day
Probably
one.
not day one, because I never get ahead. I never get around to pre-ordering tickets in time, but you know, as soon as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. So currently, I'm looking at the poll. Will Link have the Talking to Zelda movie? And the poll is 71% yes, 29% no. So I'm curious, guys. For those of you that say no, how will they handle it? Do we just not have a movie? Or do you think that he would just be a...
The only way I could see it if he doesn't talk, they would have to have a character like Navi who's like speaks for him. Because like in the games where there's a lot more dialogue between like Link and other characters, like Phantom Hourglass, the fairy just talks for you.
Yeah. Ticket Smooth.
Kinda
Have you ever
works in that
gone a
instance.
feature-length video game movie with a silent protagonist? I don't know. I think one, I don't watch enough movies as it is, but also I don't watch video game movies because I think they're usually bad. But I remember years ago the first Resident Evil movie. I don't remember her talking that much. Not saying she didn't talk, but
You know,
there's a lot of
I
quiet
could
moments, I want to
see-
say.
if it was like the only Metroid, if they made a Metroid movie, I could see them not needing like Samus to talk.
I think she still should
I
talk.
think it'd be better if she did talk every once in a while.
Like I
But I
think
could see that being a movie where like there's basically no dialogue.
basically Metroid Dread, where she talks like twice in the game, like that, but in the movie.
Yeah, but like I could, if they would. I feel like if they wanted to make something where they didn't talk, it need to be like very atmospheric. Like the action would have to speak for itself, which doesn't really work for Zelda, where it's like there's puzzles and huge lore and things. Whereas Metroid, it could work because you got like horror and sci-fi action focus, and you don't need like this whole like lore spoken straight to you. You can infer it from the world and things. So that I could see working, but not for Zelda. There's too much like direct lore that needs to be explained in like character moments and
There's a lot of dialogue in
too many
Zelda
characters
games.
in general
Yeah.
for it to just be no dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I think Metroid's a different beast. It's Zelda has conversations and characters, to your point. So, I mean, I'm still waiting to see someone in the chat that's making an argument for why Nintendo shouldn't have Link talk in a Zelda movie. Okay, Pokemobs. He probably wouldn't going to be running around alone. I can see his dialogue being mostly faces and grunts with when communicating with main character number 2. Okay.
It's not impossible that they could pull it off.
Emilio Martinez. Look at Willy's Wonderland. Nicolas Cage never talked once in that movie. I didn't watch that.
Check it out.
Guy you don't know. Assuming that Link
That's a
is the
Nicolas
main
Cage
character
movie,
in a
isn't
Zelda
it?
movie, it would be pretty necessary for him to speak. However, if it didn't focus on Link, you probably wouldn't have to speak. If it didn't focus on him...
What kind of Zelda movie would it be if it didn't focus
Well,
on Link?
if the Zelda movie was focused on Zelda and Link was just kind of like her knight, I still think he should talk. It should just be very sparingly. So I don't know. I don't. There should be, in my mind, it doesn't make sense to not have him talk at all. Like,
Yeah, it's weird.
it can
Unless
be
he is actually
rare.
physically mute.
No,
Like, oh, he got an injury.
so
He
let's
can't
say
talk.
they were to make a movie based off Breath of the Wild, or the flashbacks in Breath of the Wild, where literally Zelda and Link are traveling Hyrule together, and they're trying to get her to restore to have her powers, and they have a canon reason as to why Link doesn't talk. He does not talk because of the societal pressure and everything, and all the weight on his shoulders, and the people's opinions and interpretations of what he says. So he made a conscious decision to not talk in public. But he still has conversations in private, in confidence with Zelda, where he talks. He actually has words to say. So I think that even if they were to have a movie that tells something like that, where Link is a mute and there's a story reason for it, there still will be moments, those private moments between Link and Zelda where they talk, or where there's a moment where, like, there might be, like, at the end where he may, like, call out to her to save her or something. Like, there's gonna be something, like, narratively, it makes sense to have some moments of him talking. If that's, they would have to be a different direction.
Yeah.
Link would just have to be, like, not that important of a character then. But then is it really a Zelda
'Cause
movie?
even in the Zelda games, he talks. It's not voice active, but he still talks in most of them.
That's a good point. Most of them he does talk, but the game makes the assumption that we do the talking. We do the
You
talking.
can even choose the dialogue in certain games, like Skyward Sword.
Yeah. And as I brought up in the Wind Waker, there's actually, Wind Waker has Link do some level of voice acting. It's just a couple words, but it exists.
Even in Breath of the Wild, he has quippy things to say to people.
With
Usually
the
you don't
dialogue
get to
you
choose
choose.
what they are, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's more like he's a man of few words, not
Yeah.
no words.
We just haven't heard the words, but they are being
Right.
spoken.
Yeah. Yeah, I Kick it smooth. I think the problem is it being feature length and story focused. Samurai Jack has long spans with no dialogue, but that's a TV show. And I think that's a really good example though. Samurai Jack, they're short spurts, it's episodic, and there are episodes where he doesn't talk at all. But correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he does talk at some points in that series. It's just few and far between. Again, the point is, it's a stoic character that doesn't need to talk a lot, but there still will be moments where it makes sense to converse and have conversations. The story behind Link isn't that he doesn't have vocal cords and can't talk. It's that he chooses not to talk, or he's just very sparing with his words. So, if you're going to make a movie about Link, I still think he's got to talk.
I like John Wick. John Wick barely talks.
Well, that's a different kind of movie, though. You want to just watch the Link like
so...
walk around like just assassinating everything?
Yes.
That would be fun. I'd be all,
Hell
I would
do.
watch it. And maybe in that scenario he doesn't talk.
Do that, bro.
But that would just probably not be how they would want to depict The Legend of Zelda. But you know, us having this conversation and there being some doubt as to whether Link should talk or not, maybe it's one of the reasons why Nintendo doesn't even get around to doing a movie, because they just don't know how to handle that.
So many reasons why not to do a Zelda movie and then do a TV show instead. It'd be much easier.
The messaging
Still have
is
the issues
challenging.
with the voice acting and such, whether Link should talk, but you know, it's much easier to tell the kind of story that you need to tell with Zelda in a show.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all about having, you know, not everything has to be a movie either. I'm okay with that. I will say this, though. What I might prefer, I think I might prefer, like, a Studio Ghibli style Zelda movie.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah. That's what I want to see. Something like that. Now, the problem with that is that if Nintendo wants it to be mainstream, people may not interpret that as a mainstream kind of movie.
People would be dumb.
Yeah, but, you know.
Movie looks good, therefore not mainstream.
People don't like cartoons.
Yeah, I feel like that's something... I don't know, I feel like there is a large group of people who do still like 2D animation. I feel like corporations have moved past it, and they'd like start moving towards 3D because there's a lot of technical
let me
boundaries to
clarify.
push.
I'm a huge
But-
anime fan, right? I don't think anime is just for kids. It's not. It objectively isn't. But I mean, anime is just an art style, right? A way you depict and
Yeah.
express something. It's not necessarily like the kind of show it is. There's cooking animes, there's romance animes, there's all sorts of animes, right? I don't think they're for kids. That's just a way of expression, right? But a lot of people who aren't used to that, I'm talking about people who don't watch anime, don't understand like other cultures outside the West. A lot of them look at that and just think, "Oh, okay, that's for kids. That's a cartoon." Like, I don't care. There is a lot of that,
Yeah.
and also, I
We
think
need more
there's
shows like Invincible, bro. Such a good show. So not for kids.
I'm not even familiar with that.
Invincible?
No.
You haven't seen? You have to watch Invincible. It's on Prime,
Oh, okay.
I think.
Okay.
It's kind of like The Boys, the anime,
Oh, all right.
almost. Except, well, it's similar to The Boys in the sense that it shows how superheroes can be really like fucked up, and there's a lot of gore and like consequences to superheroes existing being shown and things like that. But it doesn't really follow the same story beats at all as The Boys.
Okay. So we need to move on. There's another topic we need to get to, and that's with Metroid. So I got this other super chat here from Taker. I don't think I got to. Thank you very much for the super chat, Taker. Taker says, Link has to at least say, "Excuse me, princess."
Please no.
Probably not, but I'll give you this. It feels like Nintendo's paying some level of homage to the original Super Mario Bros. Movie with the new one, with the title, and even like some of the
Logo.
initial story concepts with where they come from. So if it is the case if that is actually truly the case, that they are intentionally paying some level of homage there, maybe Nintendo will also want to play some level of homage to those horrendous scenes with the "Excuse me, princess" dialogue, and maybe they'll make like a joke that's very subtle and way more tasteful in a Zelda movie. Like, I could see it being done a one-time thing that sounds kind of funny, and it won't sound kind of awkward because it would be like within context of a scenario. But I could see that. But that's it, and one time, and that's it. Although if it doesn't happen, I'm totally fine with that too. But let's now move on to Metroid. We gotta talk about this too. So the basic story here is that, this is coming from Dr. 81, he discovered a LinkedIn profile listing that was for an environmental, a manager of, I'm trying to like remember, I could just get the link, but basically a manager for environmental art outsourcing. And what's interesting about this, a few things. One, they're looking for someone who has a history with working with AAA projects with 10 million plus budgets for the outsourcing alone. But also, two, this listing does not include any mention of Metroid Prime 4. And when you look at their previous listings, they've always said, hey, come work for Retro Studios and develop Metroid Prime 4.
Right.
So the fact that this new listing that just came out is not bringing up Metroid Prime 4, there's this interpretation that this might mean that they are now hiring for projects outside of Metroid Prime 4, which you could then take to mean that they are winding down development for Prime 4 and are gearing up for their next big project.
You could also interpret this, I feel like, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is, I mean, technically, yes, you could interpret it that way. I feel like that is a lot of leaps, not necessarily unfounded leaps, but a lot of leaps in logic to get there. But yeah, it could mean that. And it's very.
It could also mean they decide not to.
Taking this with like a whole mountain of salt.
I think it could also mean that they just decided to not list Metroid Prime 4 in that particular hiring.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of hirings. I've seen them listed, but I can't guarantee that every single one has it. So,
yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked for every single one.
Yeah. Now, I will say that one thing this does confirm, though, is that they are looking for talent. They want AAA talent. So,
yeah.
It goes either one of two ways, right? Either A, it means they are looking for AAA talent, or B, it means they're done with Metroid Prime 4, which could be a AAA game, but this doesn't confirm that because we don't know if it's for Metroid Prime 4. But, you know, if they're looking for a AAA talent, the interpretation would be is that they are aiming for AAA development. So, Prime 4, I would say, is AAA development.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But, you know, another exciting point here is just Retro Studios trying to be at that level. You know, I think that Metroid Prime 4 is eventually going to be finished. I do think that we are getting there. You know, I've made my thought. I feel like I've made my thoughts clear on this, right? I currently believe that there will be a Prime announcement this year. I could be wrong. Been wrong before. But
many times.
But I do think the Prime remaster, there's a good chance we see that this year. And if we do, that means Prime 4 is nearing the end stages. That's what I think. And if we don't see the Prime remaster, all that tells me is that Prime 4 is further out. So, for example, I mean, just to like showcase that my reasoning has been consistent. Last year, when we had the speculation, the rumors that Prime Remaster is coming out for the holidays, as reported by Jeff Grubb, I was like, okay, all right, they're going to showcase Prime Remaster, and they're going to start positioning a campaign for Prime 4 in 2023. But once it became clear that Prime Remaster was not coming out for the holiday last year, I then started saying, okay, Prime 4 is probably a 2024 game. Because I believe that the whole idea behind it is that once they're fairly confident that Prime 4 is approaching the end of development, that they can start campaigning for it, and that'll start with Prime Remaster. And the reason Prime Remaster probably didn't come out last year is because maybe they were thinking they were close, but realized they weren't quite close enough, so they pushed things up. That's what I think happened.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it can't be too far away. I mean, considering how long it's been in development. I mean, Metroid Prime 4, it's gonna be an ambitious game. I think it's gonna be a game from a studio that hasn't made games in a while. Maybe they need to work on their engine, and that's taking part of it. But at the end of the day, this isn't gonna be like this huge open world, Tears of the Kingdom competitor game. And it's already, if it launches at the end of this year, it will have had more than 4 years of development time, because it'd be almost 5 years, because the announcement for the restart was early 2019, right? So by the end of this year, 2023, it'd be almost 5 years then. So you're thinking by the end of 2024, you know, almost 6 years of development for a game that typically only takes them like 2 or 3 years. That seems like an extremely long time. So we got to be thinking that Metroid Prime 4 is coming up eventually. Like by the end of 2024 makes a lot of sense. You know, as I said, I could see some of the things like maybe they need to change the things for their engine. Maybe they're even pushing things for, you know, a dual release on the next system, or at least another version for this system that's taking longer. But at the end of the day, no matter what constraints they have, you got to be thinking that the game's coming out pretty soon.
Yeah. It's crazy to think, right? Because the restart was announced January 2019. And so we are approaching the 4-year anniversary of that. And so they announced the restart in January, but when did the restart actually start? When they know it was not happening, it was likely before that, right? They don't just put this all together a day beforehand or a day afterwards. Like there's some time after, you know, there's a window there. So to your point, Brandon, if Prime 4 is a holiday 2024 release, that's 6 total years. That's a long time. And yes, COVID was in between, and that could have impacted things. But by how much? By 3 years? By 4 years? That seems like a stretch. So we got to be close, I would say. And there's another conversation to be had, and it is, well, did they start entirely from scratch when they restarted development? They didn't tell. They told us they were restarting development. And I guess you could say when the implication is that when you restart development, you're starting from scratch. But a couple things with that. There's pretty much no project in existence that's entirely from scratch nowadays. There's always assets or things borrowed from previous projects. And if we pay attention to the story from Imran Khan about Retro Studios having worked on a prototype for a Metroid Prime remake, which was then greenlit, which is why we had this remaster rumor. If that is true, then when they started the project, they already had some sort of engine that they were working on already. So that's already some level of a groundwork for Prime 4. So it's already not from zero, if that story is true. But then we know that at least since they made the announcement in 2017, they were working on something. And by they, I mean Nintendo and whoever they partnered with to get this done. The rumor is that it was Bandai Namco. Did they really scrap 100% everything there? Did they not recycle anything at all? And the producer is still Kensuke Tanabe, and he still had all these thoughts and ideas about what they're gonna do for Prime 4. So his idea of what they're doing with the story and the characters, is that all scrapped as well? That's part of the development process. And I don't think that part was scrapped. Not entirely. Maybe changed somewhat, sure. But entirely,
I do think,
no.
as far as like the assets go, because, you know, I doubt they're using the same engine that Nintendo was using to make the game. So there very well could have had to be a lot of changes done to every single asset, depending on how compatible the engines are with each other. So they may not have been able to bring over that much very easily, but at the very least, things like storyboarding, assuming that the story wasn't part of the issue for redevelopment, which I doubt it was, it makes sense to be able to launch very quickly into active development. The only thing is, we know Retro Studios had like a demo made, that is the current thinking, is that they showed Nintendo a demo, and that excited Nintendo, and then they gave them Prime 4. We don't know how far along the engine in general was at that time.
Right.
So it could have just been years of just engine development in order to get all the features they want for the game. But even then, I do think like 6 years, that's a long time.
Well, the other thing is that the whole rumor is that Prime Remaster is what Retro Studios has been working on. So that takes up some development resources away from Prime 4. So you could also say, okay, well, if they're making both, wouldn't it also mean that because they worked on Prime Remaster, they haven't been entirely dedicated to Prime 4? I mean, yeah, I would say so. But I would also...
on the remaster would help with 4, because a lot of the engine time would be dumped into that project.
I agree. Yeah, so I mean, it can kind of go both ways, right? They built an engine for Prime Remaster, allowed them to explore more ideas, very similar to the Wind Waker HD, right? Like they put together an engine that they ran Wind Waker in this new lighting engine, right? And that allowed them to play around with some concepts and examine the structure of that game, which assisted with the development for Breath of the Wild. So Prime Remaster may play a similar role for Metroid Prime 4. Either way, I think we're all in agreement. The game's been in development for a long time. They've been working on it for a while. So how far off can we really be? If it's not coming up by 2024, then that means we're talking about a 7-year development cycle, not counting when they announced it in 2017. We're talking about since the restart. So
yeah,
if we account for when they announced development, it's a lot longer than that. So, you know, while I would say that the hirings that we're seeing aren't straight up 100% proof confirmation that Prime 4 is done, I do think that enough time has passed that it's reasonable to think that we're not that far off. And if we get an announcement for something Metroid this year, that could be telling to that very point. But let's check in with the chat here. Brandon, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool. So first thing here, this poll's been out for a little bit. I got 47 votes here. Will Link have to talk in a Zelda movie? And the overall decision was 70% yes, Link will have to talk. 30% no. So there you go. Most people agree that Link would have to talk, but some people don't. So that's interesting. Daniel's Hot Topics. Do you think they may make a Metroid movie after the Mario Bros. Movie or the rumored Zelda movie? So, well, okay.
I feel like that's not the third on the list of potential movies, at least for me.
Probably not, but if Metroid Prime 4 sells like 25 million copies next year, they might, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't think so. But
I still don't think, even if Metroid Prime 4 came out next year and sold 25 million copies, that'd be their third movie, considering the fact that they wouldn't know if that would happen until next year after the game launched.
Well, let me ask you a question then. Well, okay, hold on. Well, first off, when I say it'd be their next movie, I'm assuming that they're only developing one movie at a time, and the Zelda movie takes like 5 years, and then after that, it's like Metroid, right? So we're talking about saying Metroid still like 8-9 years from now or something.
Fair.
I would like to think Nintendo gets a lot faster than that at making movies, and they have multiple studios working on it in tandem. But Prime 4, I mean, if Prime 4 sells that much, I think definitely it enters that conversation. But the point I really want to get at, though, is this. Not everything that Nintendo is going to do, I think, is just going to be straight up movies like the Mario Bros. Movie. Nintendo opened this studio, Nintendo Pictures, that doesn't just have to be straight up movies. It could be quick animations. It could be short videos or smaller episodic series or shows or what have you. I remember a few years back they had this little short for Star Fox, and it was this cool animation that was cel shaded. It was meant to hype up Star Fox Zero. It was really cool. I would have actually liked to have seen a full series on that. What if Nintendo does a lot of like quicks or shorts like that? Like, what if they just release, or maybe you can call them an OVA, or I don't know what you would call it, but just like a special.
Miyamoto made the Pikmin shorts.
The Pikmin shorts.
Those were great.
What if one day Nintendo just announces, hey, we're publishing a 30-minute Metroid experience, and it's a 30-minute like CGI, something like what we talked about earlier, how like that Smash trailer where they revealed Ridley, where Samus walking through this dark corridor area. What if they had something with CGI visuals like that, and or maybe it's more like a customized Prime 4, like maybe it's something meant to hype up Prime 4, so it's like this huge cutscene that's using that engine, but it's obviously focused on just like cinematic, so it looks even better or something. But anyway, whatever they use, they give us like this really cool aesthetic and show us like this 30-minute experience that's like Samus exploring like this creepy area, and it's kind of like maybe it's not even 30 minutes long, maybe it's only like a 10-minute thing, but it's just kind of like meant to showcase, you know, like that essence of Metroid, of exploring this eerie alien world with a lot of atmosphere, and she's like going deeper into whatever this is and finding this dark enemy or something, and there's like a little bit of a story there, and it's all encompassing of his short little story, and that's what comes out and it hypes up the next Metroid game. Like, they could start doing things like that, and that wouldn't take 5 years to be made.
No, but I would love it if Nintendo put like full effort into a Metroid movie. I would love. One of my favorite movies recently is called 1917, and the reason I love the movie so much is because it is just pure like act. It's the way they film the movie is like one big long take. There's very little dialogue in the movie, and the scenes are consistently just like constantly happening. There's no real parts where characters are just like standing around and then it jumps to another scene or anything like that. It's just one continual long take, even though technically it's not. It's just meant to look that way. But still, you get the idea and the impression that it's one long take. You're just watching something play out. And I think it'd be super awesome if you just watch Samus land on the planet. You kind of like, maybe they give you some impression through the environment or something you maybe can read, or something that gives you the impression of like Samus is here to fight Ridley or to do something. Like, there's some reason and backstory they give you, but like very little, and it's not told through like
environmental storytelling.
Yes, and then she just lands on a planet. You just see her exploring, and then just things happen. You just see it like one continuous long, brooding like take would be like really awesome. And 1917 also has like, there's some parts where it's like really fast action scenes, but there's also parts where it slows down and you're just like walking through the environment, and it's like very eerie, and there's just, that movie is great. If you haven't seen it and you don't know what I'm talking about, go see 1917, because it's amazing. It came out a couple of years ago. It's on some streaming services, but something like that, like really long, like slow brooding thriller, but as well though, it would be great. I don't know. I think it'd be perfect for
I haven't
Metroid.
seen that yet. I feel like you brought it up before, but it's pretty. I'm interested. I have gone around to watching it, but I definitely see the allure there, and I see the value in something like that for a Metroid movie. Like one long, it makes it feel more organic, right? And it's more of a focus. It makes you feel like you're actually there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which would be really cool. I would love that. Now, does the movie have music, or is it more just like sound effects and just the ambience of
I
the
think
environment.
it does have music, but it's not like super in your face.
Okay.
It is very much more like environmental stuff, I think.
I was just only asking because like a lot of Metroid music is very like atmospheric, ambient, kind of creepy, but it's not just the environment, you know. So I would be, it would be interesting. Well, I guess the thing is, a video game versus a movie is also a different beast, right? Like, I guess we wouldn't need there to be a lot of Metroid music. It's not like when you're watching a normal movie, there's music playing the whole time, unless it's a musical, and even then, sometimes there's little gaps. It's different, right? Like if you're playing a game, you're gonna hear, like if you're playing a Metroid game, there's gonna be music the whole time. If you're playing a Mario game, there's gonna be music the whole time. Zelda's one of the few exceptions. Well, Zelda usually actually has music all the time too, until Breath of the Wild. That's where they change things a little bit. And still there's usually some type of music, it's just a different style of music that's more ambient.
There's a lot of music in... It depends on the movie, but I think you can do a movie that has a lot of music, and it's not necessarily a musical. I mean, like Star Wars and things like that have a ton of music. Like, constantly.
But I'm just thinking about like what a Metroid would be. I guess a Metroid movie wouldn't have that much music. It would be for moments.
I think it could have music, but more like subtle music, a lot. And then go for more themes and like big moments. Right.
Yeah. Like the music would be for like certain plot beats. Like they might play like the Metroid theme for like when she does something triumphantly, you know. Yeah, that'll be cool. Like it's kind of like maybe like every time she has a run with a space pirate, so it's maybe happens like a handful of times. You'll hear kind of like and it's just like yeah, Samus just kicked ass. Don't forget. Yeah, that'll be cool. But let's come back to chat here. Gone Hunter. Not everything needs a film adaptation. Everything needs a Metroid anime, though. Zelda needs a Metroid anime. Mario needs a Metroid anime. Pokemon needs a Metroid anime. That's right. Everything needs a Metroid anime. There needs to be an anime from every Nintendo franchise with Metroid in it. Forest Hoku. The Samurai Jack point that was brought up earlier was actually about a Metroid show, not a Zelda movie. Just FYI. Ah, okay. I hear what you're saying there. And, I mean, that makes sense. I think... So, what's interesting is some people argue, well, Link talks less than Samus, so shouldn't it be the other way around? But I think you just gotta think about the worlds, right? And Brandon made a great point earlier. In the world of Zelda, there's talking and dialogue all throughout. In the world,
tons of other characters you have to interact with.
Exactly. And because it's a video game, they've been able to get away with not doing that. But in the world of Metroid, it is about isolation and being alone. If Samus were to be where there is another character, then it'll be weird if she's not talking at all. Now, if it's for quick moments and her personality is to like not talk, okay. But if she's traveling alongside someone the entire movie and there's no dialogue between them, that's weird.
Yeah.
So, yes, I understand the point about Samurai Jack. I didn't realize that it was in reference to Metroid, not Zelda. And that makes sense. How Samurai Jack handles it is perfect. He doesn't talk often. But when he does, it's because there's someone to talk to. So, if they were to tell a Metroid story, she wouldn't talk often either, unless there's someone to talk to. It's kind of logical when you think about it. Like it's really nothing like mind bending. It's just she talks to people when there's people to talk to, and that it's really that simple. Now she's not gonna. I feel like she's not a talkative person, but that's actually an interesting thought. Well, at least for me, we assume Samus is not a talkative person, but what does Samus do when she's just kicking it back at home? Like when she comes back from a mission, like does she go to the bar and like have a jolly good old conversation with people, or like does she have a cat that she just like, you know, just plays around with and teases the whole evening? Like we don't know what Samus does when she's at home, and we may never know. They may never depict what Samus does on her downtime. They don't really do that. for
No.
most characters. So
That's where we get movies. Actually, I don't want them to explore that in the movie. Please don't.
no. Spheromancer. Nintendo produced an Animal Crossing movie that never got an English translation, but I'm sure they're considering that, seeing as how popular the franchise is right now.
Maybe if it was a good movie for the West.
I personally have zero.
I can see Animal Crossing getting a movie that's not that one, like a different movie.
I don't know. I
Or
have a hard
I
time
don't know what they
envisioning.
could do with a movie. What? I can see
Is
like
it
a
Animal
nice anime. It'd be a great anime. An Animal Crossing anime.
Yeah,
would
like
be
a
nice.
cutesy anime that's
Slice of
like
life almost.
short, bite-sized, like 10 to 15-minute episodes. You know, maybe like like if it was to be something that was
Some
have like
little
a
scenarios that happen.
yeah, like that would be neat and just cute, like cutesy little things. But I can't see them doing a movie because I just don't see how they
What
can
would the
make
plot
like a
be?
massive epic out of Animal Crossing. Like, it's Animal Crossing. It's not about that.
Unless they make it about you going in and saving the town somehow. But
No. At
they'd
that
have
point,
to like
make
seem much
Earthbound.
more epic than it is. Because even in the game's context, like people like you. I don't even think the other ones you didn't even own the town. Like before New Leaf, I don't think.
Earthbound would make a
Uh,
great movie or TV series. Earthbound would be amazing.
Yes.
But
Earthbound would be dope.
before they make a movie or TV series, they should start making games again.
Yeah, I should probably start re-releasing. You know.
Yeah.
the Earthbound 3. Or Mother 3.
Yeah.
Earthbound 3.
Forrest Hoka.
Still
We
don't
know
know
she
any-
goes to
the
a
card
bar
name of
because
the
one
game.
of the ending cards of Metroid Fusion.
Huh.
Really? I
Yeah,
don't
but going to
remember
a
that.
bar. Yeah, a lot of people go to a bar doesn't determine. You're not sure what kind of personality she's at the bar.
Metroid
Unless they say
Fusion
anything.
ending gallery.
You can go to a bar and be
Is
social,
there
you can go to a bar
evidence
and
of
drink
Samus
alone.
going to a bar? I must see this. Where? Let's see here. Okay, these are Metroid Fusion ending screens gallery, AI enhanced. I only see. Okay. Okay, I don't know if I like the AI enhancements, but I'm trying to see something that shows like signs of a bar. I don't see it. I see her in her Zero Suit clothes. I mean, I see her being more chill, but I don't see anything there that's like, oh, yeah. Samus goes to bars. Banner Yagami. Nintendo's Direct Possible this month. Anything is possible. History would suggest otherwise, but some rumors give us hope that it could happen sooner than later. And then Nintendo desperately needs to give us information on Tears of the Kingdom, and that's like an actual tangible reason that we're like, hey,
Yeah.
they should need to talk
Please.
about this sooner and later. So, and the other interesting thing is that we've gotten previews for Fire Emblem Engage already, but the game, I mean, they came out last week. Like, at this point, we're past the point of there being a Fire Emblem Direct, right?
Probably. Unless it's tomorrow.
Unless it's tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. I wouldn't place my bets on a January Direct. It's possible, but by February, I think it's safe to expect one.
By March, I guess. By the end of
Well,
February.
I mean, by March. You're right. Or by the end of February. Oh, Zero Mission. All right, well, now I'll Google Zero Mission. I need to see Metroid Zero Mission ending gallery. Here we go. Here we go. This is the last thing I'm doing before I close out this stream. Let's see. Oh, there's another AI enhancement for the Zero Mission ones. There's less imagery here. Okay, Samus in a suit, but maybe a city. Samus in a hallway. Samus walking away within casual clothes. Oh, she's at a bar. There it is.
Yay.
There it is.
Hello.
All right, I'm gonna screen share this. You guys gotta see this. This is huge. Hold on.
Hold on. I'll look too, I guess.
Okay. All right, I'm putting this up now. One moment. So I'm putting it up here. Wrong image. There it is. Metroid Zero Mission ending screen. She's at a bar. It's a space bar. She's chilling.
That she is. That she is.
There she was having a night out in the city. I wonder who took the picture. These are AI enhanced, so they're not the original images, but they look something like them. This one, I've seen this image before, but she's in the city, maybe on the phone.
Image meant to look at like a higher resolution.
Yeah. So, okay. Samus goes to bars, confirmed. She could actually be looking for intel here. She might not even be hanging out. We don't know that. That would be interesting, though. I don't think they should do it for a Metroid game, but, like, you know, Samus, she's a bounty hunter. So, you know, it makes some sense. All right, I think we're pretty much at the end of tonight's discussion.
Oh.
Yep. All right, I'll check this out here. LP, on to me, Tears of the Kingdom comes out on my graduation. Do you think the May release of Tears of the Kingdom was placed in May because of summer break, high school, college students?
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I
May is not a typical release
Yeah.
date for big games in general.
like, would they just all of a sudden start doing that just for Tears of the Kingdom? That doesn't really add up to me. So I'm gonna say,
I think it just happened to be when the game was done and they positioned it at a time when it was best of the year. There's also kind of, not to go into this topic again, but just to say kind of also why I don't believe that Tears of the Kingdom is going to be the last big game of the year, because why put it there if it was going to be? Makes no sense.
well, the thing is about that, not to extend this discussion too much longer, but technically, when they've said that Tears of the Kingdom will be the last big game on Switch, that doesn't inherently mean there won't be another big game from Nintendo in the year. Conceivably,
True.
they could come out with a new system for the second half of the year, and there are games coming out for, there's like a 3D Mario that comes out then.
Fair. Though I don't think
yeah.
that's entirely what the leak or what the rumors seem to suggest.
Well, I think they were intentionally vague because they don't really know.
It's probably true.
So, yeah, we'll see. Only time will really tell. And tomorrow when they announce the Direct, you heard it here first. You probably didn't. And I'm not actually... If it does happen, it's purely like coincidence. That, yeah. I just really want there to be a Direct announced tomorrow because I
If it
don't...
happens, he willed it into existence.
If there is a Direct announcement tomorrow, it just means I have an excuse to work on video stuff, do a live stream, and talk about it instead of other things tomorrow evening that I do not want to attend. That's all. All right, guys. Have a great evening. We'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.